Okay, today is November 29th, 2018. We will continue with our, work session. We started, at 9 o'clock, we opened our work session, went into executive session. We are now back in open session, and our first discussion item is Michelangelo's proposed changes.
Can we do the pledge?
Well, no, because that was before we went into the first open.
Did you do pledge already? Right, no.
You wanna do it for the beginning of this open session, or the last open session? Because we already opened the session, so it was when we first, before we went into executive. You wanna stand for like again? The samples are getting bigger. All right,
Should.
okay,
Probably should.
okay, we are just going to stand for the pledge, for the beginning of this, open session. So, Jeff?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'm a Michelangelo.
All right, and we're just going to have you, welcome, introduce yourself. We are on camera, so just your name and your affiliation.
Dean Spitaleri, owner, Michelangelo.
Kevin McCartney, owner, Michelangelo.
Okay, how would,
Eater at Michelangelo. I think we could just share a couple.
all right, you have enough here?
Oh, yeah, we got plenty.
Okay, how would you like to start? I know you've been to us before, so. Jeff, do you wanna start the conversation? Brad?
Alright, so, we met with Dean back, I think, in the fall of 27th. We took over what was formerly the Riverhead project, which, then was, Sonoma Grill. So we saw that as a continuation of the restaurant. Also, Michelangelo's is a continuation of the restaurant, but Dean saw that, the outside didn't really work, so made a site plan application earlier this year. We got to a stage where we thought it was approved, but then there was some discussion about the finishes, because I guess the tile, the marble looking tile that was ultimately approved by the LPC, the ARB thought that you might have some problems with it staying up. So the applicant has been nice enough to come back and discuss about the exterior finishes. So I have a permit that's issued, and includes the site plan, so it's a little odd to be back talking about the finish at this point, cause obviously they're under construction, and would like to open this
Yes,
sooner rather than
I
later.
see him every day working out there. Doing a good job.
So I think what they have is brought some samples because of the discussions that were ongoing with the ARB, but ultimately, ARB speaks for the planning board or the reviewing board, which would be the town board, so it's really up to the town board ultimately. And the same thing with the LPC, so.
And I just got an email from Richard Lawrence,
I got that too.
yeah, that said that he had not seen the sample board yet, and they wanted to see that before they offered a recommendation back to you.
This is where I'm a little confused, because you came before the town board, we approved the material for the building. And then apparently there were some discussions with other people about changes to that, that this town board was not involved in. So I'm just wondering what's going on here at this point, and why there's, has there been approval for changes? I know this has
No.
gone through a couple iterations since what was originally approved on the site plan, so where are we at with this?
So as liaison to Landmark, they came before the Landmark, they wanted to do stucco on the outside and change the complete appearance of the front of the building, and it was gonna be very expensive. We
That was
said,
after the site plan approval or before?
no, we said, don't change it and keep everything the same and go with the marble, and you said, okay, and I think samples were submitted and approved, and now you're changing the samples. Landmarks had a meeting on Monday, so I'm just curious as to why you weren't referred to Landmarks on Monday too, so that they could have seen these materials.
But my confusion is the town board has already approved the material, what is?
Site plan,
But we approved the material for the building in the site plan for the exterior, correct?
we don't approve
You guys
materials.
approved the material for the marble.
Right, for the site plan by the town.
We never submitted any material to be approved, that never happened.
What was submitted on the site plan, was the material for the outside of the building,
It
part?
was existing, they wanted us to restore what was there.
Yep,
I understand that, I'm just trying to find the sequence of events here. So we approved the material as part of the site plan for the outside of the building, correct?
we don't approve
No.
material.
No,
But what was approved for the exterior of the building?
it was marble that was approved, but the
By the
marble,
Landmarks.
no,
It had marble, you were trying to match
No.
it, right?
let me
me finish, I'll tell you exactly what happened.
I will let you
The
finish.
marble was approved, we were gonna do it, but it was marble that was, quarter inch, whatever it was, and I had like the guru in the industry come there, and
He
he
said
said,
all the marble had to come off. You just can't
not
keep
even
the
that, he just said that it's not safe to even put this up.
Yeah.
So you guys approved the marble to be, for us to put new marble up. But we wanted to do that, but we can't because the guy said that will not work. He goes, water will seep in, you will have a problem, and he goes, right now, and I was willing to keep the old marble, me and you talked about that. I was willing to keep it, but he goes, this is so dangerous. He goes, even if I
I know you said it was a safety issue.
yeah, it
that
was a
could fall
safety
off.
issue, I had no problem regrouting it, putting new slabs if we needed it, cause it would've saved us $70,000. So, I wanted to do that, but a safety issue, I don't need somebody coming under that archway, that I wanted to totally fix the archway, but you guys wanted to keep the archway. So, it's dangerous, so that's why we're back to this. And-
Okay, so then from that, then they went back to to the planning board and building for the switches?
No planning board.
I'm sorry, not to the planning, to building, to switch the
There was
material.
talk between the applicant and Landmarks, and the applicant and ARB that was not referred to planning, none of us even knew about it. Got the email from Richard, who sends us a lot of emails from Landmarks, and I like that Richard's so accessible and sends me the email, and the last thing I have was, he approved the 12x24 tile like marble, I got to go ahead.
But that was approved by Landmarks then? That was, at a Landmarks meeting, they approved it to
I don't know if
change
it
in the
was at a
tile?
meeting, it was an email from Richard to the planning.
They came
So we were
before
going
us.
back and forth with Richard on this, and we sent him samples, and he goes, I like it.
But Richard acting as who?
The chairman of the Landmarks
Historic
Preservation
Society.
Commission.
So, but it wasn't in front of
Landmarks,
the
I don't
committee
know,
at all, it was
somebody's-
just Richard?
How the Landmarks works is the applicant comes before Landmarks. If there are changes that the Landmarks Commission is asking for, or if there are changes to what they approve, then by email and by samples being dropped off at Town Hall, Landmarks, Richard will discuss it with the applicant, he will send emails around to all the Preservation Commission members and get a consensus that they approve of it, and then,
Karen had it.
then,
Yes.
if there are any changes, the samples are either dropped back off so that Landmarks can come back and look at it, and they come in at their leisure and look at it and make a determination as to whether or not it's acceptable. But I can tell you that EFS with, what is that on top? Is this the new finish that you're proposing
This
for
is-
underneath that?
Well, Richard said, I wanna know what a panel looks like, you know, he wants to keep the 3x3 panels.
But Landmarks, for your original tile that you were gonna, the tile that you were gonna switch, after you couldn't do the marble, the second tile that you were going to do that was similar to
They
the,
said no,
They
that-
said no to that.
okay, who's they?
Well, we were here.
everybody.
But who's that?
Landmarks.
We
So
sat
Landmarks said-
Landmarks and ARB were here together, our last meeting,
And you,
and they said no to it,
so,
both sides.
so the original tile that you had to replace the marble,
Mhm.
they said no to that tile.
Correct. That's
Okay,
why-
but that is what the building department knew to be the material going on the outside of the building.
Planning department and building department
No.
relied upon was that final email about the tile, sorry, I know stuff happened then, but I
Oh.
think the supervisor's trying to establish where we went awry here.
Yeah,
Trying to get a timeline.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what's,
We get a letter, an
Confused.
email from Richard saying the 12x24 marble like tile is approved, we see that as a change for the older marble as a change in kind. Planning tells me, you're good to go, my permit is then amended to include the outdoor, work, because really, it's not just the facade look, and that's what we're here for today, but there was other site
Landscaping
alterations,
and the brick
landscape,
walkway
to
around the
make the
side.
front more usable, because the way it was kind of odd.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
so then building department, when
the
you
per-
issued your permit, you.
The permit was already issued because they started interior only as a
Okay, right,
as a
yeah, right,
restaurant, but
yeah.
then when I get the approval from from planning department, which they thought was from the LPC, I amended that permit to include the outdoor,
The Carrera.
work per the town board resolution of site plan.
Okay, so then that is what they're required to put up then. And then any changes to that, how should that have happened?
Right, it should be a joint, typically ARB and LPC will have a joint approval, so I think that's where we're at now.
And then the joint approval, if they amend it or change it, then that has to be, then that information should be given to you, but, and does it need to come before the, whatever body granted the original ability
I
to
mean, it's-
issue the permit?
Both the ARB and the landmarks speak for the town board in these cases, but ultimately it is the town board's
Right,
application.
they're advisory.
Yeah, they're they're
Right,
advisory.
so if the
Landmarks is
town
more
board
than
did
advisory.
approve a particular building with particular material, any changes to that should then become, the landmarks and ARB should then advise the body that approved it that they are amending their recommendations.
Right.
And then that body should then approve it.
And where
So
we are-
changes
is
should
where we
not
are-
be happening.
It's kinda where we are.
That's where we are today.
Cause I would not be able to close out my permit being, you know, they kinda move at their own peril with the exterior, and I don't like doing this to applicants either. You're in the
No,
middle of
it's-
construction, and we're talking about finishes that we thought were approved already, so.
Yeah.
I'm at a stage now where I'm not gonna stop them for changing the outside, but I can't close them out, I can't give them approval for that. They kinda move at their own peril without the town board signing off on this.
And were you guys aware of this beforehand, or did you think when you had the approval from the landmarks and the ARB
Well,
that
when we
those
met,
materials-
the last meeting at 4:30 in this office, we had Landmark and the ARB
Yeah,
all
Cliff-
together here.
It was ARB and Cliff Baldwin was here,
Mm-hmm.
and,
It was
Richard
Richard's
was
crew.
away.
Richard was away, but it
Richard
his
was out
crew.
of the
His whole
country.
crew was here.
And then they recommend.
Well, let's let,
Okay,
go.
let me just finish. His whole crew is
Sorry.
here, and the ARB crew is here. They were very nice to us, and they said, okay, look, we're not going with the marble. We all agree here. We're not doing the marble, correct? The 12 of us said, okay, no marble. And then Landmark, is this Landmark? Is that what Richard's?
Cliff,
There was two
Cliff
people
was
here
here.
from Landmark, or three
They said,
people.
okay, well, let's go revisit the stucco again. All right, submit to us what is a likeness for marble that's on a stucco plan. But here's what we want, this is what we're doing, we want 3x3 panels, because that's what you have there now. This is what everyone was telling Dean and I, and get us something that is as close to that marble as possible, so we keep a 1960s retro building on their preservation fact. I said, fine, so we met with, an engineer from a place called Master Wall. He says, I can build you 3x3 panels, this is obviously not 3x3, but he wanted to see what a grout line looked like, Richard. You know, we thought he was here today, that's why we brought this. So bring me a sample, cause I wanna see what the panel looks like, and I wanna see what the grout line looks like. And that's what this is. This is just a base coat. So we have two different textures here, we have one that's smooth and one that's a little rougher. Here's the grout line, and then the marble flex goes over this, it's a very marbly looking color. So he said, bring that back to me. I didn't know that there was so many people involved in the
Yeah.
decision making. He made it
Government,
sound
man.
like, bring it to me, Kevin, if I
Government
like it,
falls
you're
over
good to
stuff,
go.
you know that.
He kinda made it sound like that, you know, and that's why I thought we were just sitting here with him today, I didn't know this was gonna happen. So we just did what the ARB and Richard's crew told us to do, bring us back a sample, 3x3, we wanna see the grout line, get us something very close to the marble that's there. And that's what we're here today.
So where is that sample, the 3x3 and the
Well,
grout line
this-
and the
Just
marble?
pretend this is 3x3, it's 2.5
Okay.
by 2.5, but, actually, no, it's like 2x2. But this is a grout line, this is a separation line right here, there'd be
I know, but
panels
what
and-
color is the grout going to be?
Well, no, it'll all be one color,
But you don't have
he just wanted to see the spacing.
but you don't have the marble finish on top
The
of
marble,
this.
no, the finish isn't on this,
So they don't know what
Well,
it's
you
gonna
just
look
did
like.
that this morning, right?
this was done yesterday,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
So we just put another coat on top, that's why it's on me.
Yeah,
And
and
on the table.
I called the manufacturer, they're out of Hempstead, you know, where they mix this stuff. And we're taking a sample of the marble that's on the building now, and bringing it back in and you have to mix ash and all the stuff together, get that
Right,
marble
it's like a
swirled.
dusting, like they
Yeah,
do with
yeah.
concrete, yeah.
So
yeah.
he's gonna do that today for us, but we didn't wanna mix all of that, we wanted to find out if the base was okay. If this texture's fine and this grout line is fine,
And this is the color?
no.
No, you don't, that's the one question
Yeah.
and concern I have today is.
That's the base.
They're asking you for your blessing on this without you seeing what the
Right.
finished coat's gonna be.
Well, he wanted to know, and again, this is just Richard asking me, he goes, I wanna see the texture, and I wanna see the separation.
Now, is this Richard
No.
himself, or is this the Landmarks Preservation Committee that you're meeting with?
Well, to us, we're thinking
Cause
Richard's representing them.
but
I thought
Richard is
No.
not but Richard is one person on a committee.
Right,
thought
but
I
we're only going
explained
by
that.
what, you
No,
know,
the chairman doesn't get to decide all of what the decision of the Landmark Preservation Committee.
I thought I explained that, where Richard will say, give me the sample, and Richard will look at it, and Richard will say, the sample that they submitted is good to me, or it's not good to me, And if it's good to him, then other Landmarks members will stop in at their leisure to look at the sample.
Well, I think that's just where the confusion is, because we have a
what they
developer that's
said at
coming
the
in
ARP
here
Made it sound
to,
like, if
They
it
did
doesn't
say that.
pass my desk, what's the sense in going to someone else? If I don't like it, it stops dead right there.
and that's a problem.
You know, that's how we made
That
it
is
sound.
That's a problem with the committee.
And,
You know
and
what I
let
mean?
me
You have a committee.
let me just say something, these guys have jumped through hoops.
I know that, I know that.
These
I know
guys have
that.
done everything they've been asked to do.
So you're ready to approve it today?
So I'm still talking, if you don't mind. So I was at the ARB meeting and Richard was out of the country, Cliff Baldwin was there, and that's when they asked you guys, they talked about the size, and they asked you guys to drop off a sample, and I think you brought it the next day. And then, I had it in the town board room, and then we sent out an email to the whole both committees, that it was available for people to come by. And so I think some people did stop by and see it, and then I think Richard returned from his trip, and then I don't know what happened from there.
I mean, Richard sent me an email, saying, I like it, I like the texture. I
And
like
Yeah.
the
did you take that to mean that that was the committee's consent?
Well, when I represent my.
No, I don't wanna put you in the
as-
middle of
No, I just
anything.
wanna, just hear me out 1 second, 'cause this makes sense to you. I represent Wilshire Graham Holdings, okay, I'm the chief executive officer in charge of multiple companies, just like, I don't know who the chief is here representing the town. But if I tell you something, it's like me and my 500 employees stand behind me telling you something.
Correct,
Okay, that's how we work.
correct.
When Rich drives over to the site, puts me in his car and drives me around Riverhead, he says, Kevin, I like this, but don't do that. This panel on this building we just approved, look what we did to the movie theater. He is portraying himself as a representative of what he wants in this town. Here's my phone number, here's my contact, here's my email, send everything to me. How, I don't have a booklet that says all these people are sitting behind Richard, and you must speak to them individually.
And you should.
You understand what I'm
yeah,
saying?
And you should.
So maybe that's something you guys gotta fix
Yes,
here,
it's,
you know what I mean?
that's what that's
But
why I'm
this
just trying to
is
figure out
yeah.
how this happened, because you're being put into a position
Yeah, he didn't just
that
come off as
is
like one little.
not fair to you.
He would call me at my home, he would email me, don't get Richard in trouble over it,
I'm
just
not,
trying to tell you.
no, I'm just,
He would
don't want it
drive
to
to
be
the sites,
confusing.
acting like a representative for the town, that, hey, the buck stops here, Kevin, if I don't like this, doesn't go any further than this. That's kinda how Dean and I thought of this guy.
That's what he told you?
No, but that's how he portrays himself, but I'm not saying anything's
and you know
wrong
what?
with Richard,
Yeah.
I like him,
Kevin, if I could just,
I like him.
I'll bring it full circle back. Richard Wines does epitomize what we wanna see in landmarks. He really did spearhead that, he has a lot to do with historical preservation. He is an expert in it, and believe me, would you say he dictates? No, but people trust his judgment, put it that way. Whether he's alone, I don't think he's alone on that, but he has support for that. So I have no problem with Richard's opinion at all. With this particular, we're here today to, you thought you were meeting with Richard today, but
He told me to bring a
you're on the
sample.
agenda today for what purpose for the town board?
Because, and I will put this back to building, because this is a much different material than was approved.
It's a
And is
safer
this-
material, obviously,
Is
lightweight.
this a material that the town will approve to put up on a building? And that's our charge through the recommendation, through our planning
this is
and
just a
building,
facade.
land management
That's all it is.
department.
This is just a facade, yeah, I mean, it's steel
It's
and brick
lightweight, it's
behind it.
insulated, it's probably a lot safer than the
When
heavy
I
metal.
got nervous, cause, Dean brought in, an updated plan, talking about ethos. I know you had these discussions with Landmarks and ARB, you didn't pull it out of thin air, but I got nervous that he was going in a direction that wouldn't be approvable by
Right.
those two boards, because historically, Landmarks, they like real products, you know, stone and, you know.
It's in the guidelines.
With residential properties, they don't like the the vinyl that looks like cedar, they like real cedar. So I got nervous when he brought this in, and he's, they're spending time and money and going in a direction. I wanna make sure that not only Landmarks and ARB is okay with the change, but really the town board is okay with the changes. Ultimately, you can trump both of those boards, so.
And that's why
And I think
I
that's where
gave
we
out
need to
this handout as to what EFIS is, and it stands for
Okay.
Exterior Insulation
To
and
be
Finished
honest, I'm
Systems.
sorry.
And that's what you see along your new commercial development on Route 58. It's a very, I know it's $70,000, but $70,000, you have to compare that apples to apples in terms of other construction techniques.
It's, Greg was handling the, Greg's handling the site plan, he unfortunately couldn't be here today, but we wanted to bring it to the whole board, just to understand what's happening, and we're trying to get this approved, so if you just can discuss it now in the open session, everyone's on the same page, that when the sample is ultimately approved by ARB and Landmarks, hopefully I can
Recommended.
recommended approval, the town board can also, sign off on that.
And if you wanna see a
recommendation.
firsthand example of what this looks like is building department building. It's a frame with
Oh, you
a
mean the
styrofoam-
building department
The
has
building.
it on it?
It has it on it now, and you'll
It's
see
a stucco finish.
you basically have your frame, you have your styrofoam on top of it, then you have your mesh with a base coat, and then you have, which
Where
is
you
what you
finish.
have here, but you don't have the finish coat on this, so my recommendation to you is you can't approve this yet, because you don't know what the top coat's going to be, you don't know what the color is, what the,
We wanted to kind of find out,
If it's the right.
if this is an issue to start with, before we keep spending money on it,
and that's a question for the downtown,
I
and
can-
when we do start talking about the DC1 code amendments later on, design guidelines, it's one of the issues that Landmarks and the design committee are considering is, do we wanna allow ephes as the predominant building material in the historic downtown
No.
areas?
It has never been approved as a material in the downtown national district. EFS has never been approved.
And so that is my concern, that it's going in that direction. Is there recommendations from building and planning, what sort of material should be used here,
Building never gets into subjective
and planning?
matters.
We rely on the advice and recommendations of ARB and Landmarks. They present a recommendation to you or to the planning board, and then it's ultimately your decision or the.
Can you answer me why ephes, I mean, once this is up and installed, you're not gonna know what that is, it looks, it'll look like stone, it's,
it is actually stone.
I don't
The
understand
top
why
coat.
it would not be, what's the, I don't.
You can look up examples of making this look like marble.
Oh,
It can be achieved.
I think it's a great product, it's lightweight, it's safer, it's probably more manageable. I don't understand why ephes, you almost sound like ephes was,
Well, for
Maybe.
example, it's not the strongest necessary material in the world, if you take a look at the building
well,
department
it's
right
for
now.
facade, it's not for support.
I know, but if you take a look at the building department right now, it has some holes in it.
And it's not a natural material, which is what the landmarks and
saying
the
you can
ARB
create
look
holes.
for in downtown.
Well, I mean, the
And-
marble cannot be done, I mean, we had quotes of $250,000 and
Put it
higher
in and-
we'll pull out, you know what I mean, we can't.
We
very
understand
thin.
that, and let me
It's
just
paper
say,
thin.
let me just say really quickly, that, we have to, I feel like we owe you an apology, cause we've been, it's not you guys, it's been the process, and so, and we're all part of that, so we all need to work on the process. And this brought to light that we need to figure out this process better, so this doesn't happen to applicants again. And, if this is not an acceptable product, although I would like to see the finish on it, then we need to have something really fast, bring people together really fast, like within the next couple days, and figure something out, cause we are now
Yes.
holding up this project, which is really unacceptable.
Correct.
And, we need to realize what's going wrong here and
It's great,
move
I can
forward.
see her, she's getting upset because she wants the building to be marble. It can't be marble,
No,
I'm
it
sorry,
doesn't
ma'am.
necessarily have
I
to be
can
marble,
see
it can be corian, it
No,
can be
I
other
get-
materials that
can't
aren't as
be.
heavy as
It
marble.
can't be.
I
Corian,
think,
Corian is what we were gonna put on
At the ARB, we
there.
went around
Do
and
you
around
have
with
the
a lot of-
engineer's letter that says that it can't be mounted, that it can't be anchored to the
Do
building?
you want me to call the guy at Triflex and tell him exactly what he
If,
said?
let me
if
ask you-
Richard
I mean-
told you to do this sample, and to keep the ephes, and mix it, and do the sample, and show him what it looks like, when did he tell you that?
Countless times.
Okay, so where is it?
And
No,
also, when we were
Richard-
at the last meeting, to be honest with you, everybody at the table, we told them what we wanna do. I pulled up pictures on my phone, and I showed them, this is what we wanna do, and we can make this look like marble. And everybody agreed, yes, this would be fine with us.
And you told him
Maybe,
it was the
I'm not saying it
ephes?
was an approval, yes, it was this, it was gonna be stucco, yes. And everybody said yes, and I'm not saying that's an approval, ma'am, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying,
It gave you
Well,
direction.
they
it
were
gave me
looking-
direction, exactly,
right,
there's the word I'm
They were
looking
looking for
for.
something to as closely
I'm just getting
replicate
frustrated,
the
I'm sorry.
marble, no,
I'm
as
sorry.
possible.
And you've been
Well,
very
let me
nice
ask
to
you
me,
a simple
so.
question.
And there were 3 architects there.
If I
that
bring
were
in
looking.
something here that looks like
Yeah,
marble,
exactly.
if I bring in marble looking likeness of what's there, but it's made out of this material, do I put it on this desk? In 4 hours, I can have it made up. Do I come back here with it? Or are you saying, I don't care if it looks exactly what's there, but because it's ephes, it's an automatic no? Let's
I'm
get
not-
past that right now.
What does our code permit
know?
down there at this particular time?
I'm not opposed to ephes.
What does our code permit?
In terms of building material,
They're all guidelines, every time you get into aesthetics, it's guidelines. It's
But what
not-
does
it's
our
not a code.
guidelines say?
The code is not gonna
No, but what does
say-
our guidelines say right now?
I could look it up.
Yeah, I don't have my,
I have to go back and see what the
My-
site plan approval says.
My concern with EFS
I
is,
mean, half the buildings on that block have EFS on it.
that's part of my concern, half of Route 58 is EFS.
Because, they got approved.
And
on-
it's not all that attractive. It's
Right.
blasé, it's like this. Now, having
Stains.
said that, I've never seen this done in a look of imitating a marble. I would obviously like to see that before I make a decision.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's gonna change my mind altogether, but if for some reason you were told today EFS is out altogether, what's your plan B? Any idea
What was
what
your
your
original
other
material?
options?
The
EFS.
material was there, was the marble that was on it.
Right,
But no, when you
No.
originally
There was none.
Yes, there was,
no,
there
The
was,
original was, my idea was stucco.
yes, and they
Yeah, that-
rejected it.
Right. So you're asking about approved. The only thing that
No,
was
no, I
approved-
understand that, I
The only thing
understand,
that was approved, we were told to fix what was there,
I understand.
and that was it.
Now, this is where the EFS is going, right? Because
That
you're
archway.
trying, isn't this
Yeah.
where you're going?
Yeah, that are.
And you're trying to do the panels, and you're putting a finish on it, you're just trying to find a product as close looking to the marble as possible,
Right.
because the landmarks and the ARB wanted to replicate the historical look,
Right.
is what I'm understanding. I mean, I'm
Tear the
not
damn
thrilled
thing
with EFS, but in the process that they've gone through, and if the finish is on here and it looks as close to the marble as possible, I'm okay with it in this situation.
Right, but.
I can tell you that there have been a lot of applications that have come before the landmarks and the ARB, sitting with them for the last 8 years, that have wanted to use the EFS, and they were all rejected. So if you wanna start setting precedent and allowing it to occur in the national district, the board would have to adopt a resolution to override landmarks, because they're more than advisory.
But I think Landmarks is telling them EFS.
They told us.
This
they
came
told us.
from
Okay.
ARB and landmarks.
Okay,
Let me, look, can I just ask everyone a question?
I don't think so.
Let's pretend everybody's in this room, the two boards that were here and all you guys. Is that the whole body that approval, whatever, the
Oh,
all
good
sitting here at
lord.
once?
No, it's this body here that approves it.
Okay, so let's just have an open discussion on it. Do I come back with this or not?
I wanna see it with the marble.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I'm
I
not
mean, the marble look with the
sold
finish.
totally about
Right,
EFS,
that's
but
fine.
I haven't seen it. All I see is, look at Popeyes, look at all the medical offices on 58. They're one mundane color
Yeah.
with this surface, and
Right.
that's it.
Yeah, it's boring.
Show me that it can look better than what's up there right now. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay, so.
I have a bit of an issue with the quality of this material, with the EFS. I would like to also hear some other option of a material to be used.
There is no other option. I don't know, I mean, we'll listen to you guys if you wanna make a suggestion. I just don't know what else to put on that building. I mean, everything, there's 1,000 things we can put AZAC on it with, there's 1,000 things, you guys will never approve it. You guys want a marble looking look.
If you were to scratch the marble looking, what other material would you put up there?
Oh, I mean, God, I would love to, I could just paint that building.
Did you supply a plan or some photos
the one
or
they wanted.
sketches of something
Let's- let's
originally
start with these
in the
guys.
very beginning when it was
Paint that
stucco?
building beautiful.
And it was kind of
No,
get
but I
Franny
brought
to
rolled
in-
over, didn't I see something
Can
orange?
I
I
just
brought
slip
in
and
like
knock
a
that damn
picture,
thing right
like,
off there? That'd be
somebody
great.
did it on a
Well,
computer.
just one conversation,
And
one
before it
Why
even
wouldn't
got
you
to
put
the,
some nice board and paint it a
the
nice
stage
color,
of me
have a nice
doing it
painted
on my
building?
architectural
that.
plans, that was canned.
Yeah, that's a shame, cause I really like that.
I think that this
Put
is,
a brick, you know,
this
nice
is kind of
brick.
what my question here, and just as far as time goes, wanting a natural material. Are we trying to fit a round peg in a square hole to try and accomplish this with a painted on surface in a material that we don't really want?
You can put brick up if you like, half brick is real and looks beautiful, you know? The whole building is 3/4 brick already, this all comes down to an archway.
Yes.
That's all this is.
It's a
There's an
section.
archway and a small area on the right.
Yeah.
This whole thing is dragging on over an archway, which between you and me, I don't even like the archway, but I understand you wanna keep a 1960s look. But this is all coming down to an entranceway, you know?
Do we want them to present another type of material to
The
put
rest of
on
the
that
building is brick.
archway?
I want them
That's
to
more a
do,
natural material, because they're telling us they cannot put a marble,
okay,
uh,
I want them to do what Richard asked them to do,
Which
which
is?
was get the sample and call him, that's not this, because you're telling me that the guy has to mix it today and then apply it, and then that's what it will look like. So this is not it, right?
No, I didn't say this is not the final product,
Okay.
that puts us back on this track.
But it puts us
Gonna
on
have
the
some
track
kind
of
of finish.
ephes. The question is, are we okay with the ephes? That is, you know, painted, not painted, regardless of what the top coat looks like, we still know what's underneath. And the question is, are we okay with ephes or not, or do we want them to come back with an alternative to the ephes? So, because really, we're just talking about the aesthetic of a paint.
Right.
We're not talking about what really the whole question is, what material do we want to be used in our buildings downtown?
I can tell you, I personally have no problem with the ephes, cause it's a limited application, it's just for that archway, which it was my building, I'd have knocked the damn thing down, but it's just for the
Thank
inside of
you.
that archway, and it's just for aesthetics, really, it's for facade.
That's all it is, just an archway.
And if it was the whole building, I might have a different feeling.
So
but
this is only going on the archway or the whole
Right.
building?
No, it's going, I think, here
This-
and here, right?
This building is three-quarter, the whole of the three sides of this building is just, it's just, well, brick.
So the question then
It's
becomes,
just the archway and.
so the
I-
question, we're going back to the question again. We're hearing from our planning department, they do not wanna see ephes downtown, am I correct on that?
That's one of the recommendations in the revised guidelines. We haven't heard back from Landmarks or ARB on it yet, and, you know, I originally thought stucco was stucco. Stucco is ephes. So the question is, do we want to, and I've heard from Councilman Giglio that we don't want ephes in the downtown historic area. So there's a $64 question that's before you today, is do we want ephes in the downtown, as, I included language, be dominant building material. Here they're saying it's just for the archway.
Right, it's a limited.
So the question then becomes, do we ask them to come back with the ephes
Finished.
finished?
Yes, I definitely wanna see the finished
Jim,
ephes
look at it,
product.
it might be, it's just so enticing.
Yeah, I
to-
mean, I agree with Jeff, ephes is certainly not a product of choice, but this is a different situation. This is where they wanted marble. They wanted to replicate how this building looked, but the marble wasn't safe because there was a concern about it falling off and injuring someone, correct?
Correct.
So, in this situation, in this small area, I might be okay with it, and I wanna see, I agree with Tim, though, it would be nice to see the finish on it.
Yeah, I'll go,
That's
I'll
not
make that
hard,
up today.
right?
I'll have it
Yeah.
done today.
Okay.
And Jody?
I can't support it.
Is it a unanimous vote? It has to be?
By the way, and you're
I-
saying that Richard approved this?
Rich liked it. Yeah, he goes, we dropped off a small sample on a cardboard to him.
I gave it to,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he went like this to it, and
everyone-
he sent me an
people came
email,
around
he
with that.
goes, now we're on to something. He goes, get me a finished product, I like it.
Okay, I think what we're hearing from the board is to finish this off as to what the product would look like, and that we will consider it, as potential for just the archway here, and it's just the side of the archway there.
the right.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Couple of things, because I've talked to a couple of other architects about that.
Mhm.
We have holes in our building already with ephes on it, and he said that's because they did not use high-impact mesh. He said if you want it to be more durable, you have to use a high-impact mesh.
That's fine.
Second thing is, he said the quality also has to do with the application, how much material you're putting on, the type of material you're on. So I'm not sure if they're just applying one thin coat as a base and
Oh,
then
no,
paint
no,
over it.
this-
So, let me finish.
Yeah,
They should detail to you as to what application of materials are going into this ephes, proposed ephes system, so that Brad knows that when he
Okay.
issues his approval.
All right, so those are what we're asking you to do, to
All right,
come
so-
back exactly the materials and the way this will be constructed, and
We just don't want in 3 years, we start seeing holes in it.
no, neither do I, it's our
What's your
restaurant.
timeframe
Right.
look like, when do you need to start putting this
Today.
material on? 'Cause
Tomorrow.
you're moving along, I know
Tomorrow
this.
morning.
I'm driving by.
so you can get this back to us today?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Hempstead now, and I'll be back by the end of the
I've been watching you every day for the last month.
Okay, if you could do that then.
Yeah.
Is this straight on or trowel?
You guys have another
Sure.
meeting at 4? Is that how?
We're gonna meet with you.
Oh, okay, okay. Alright,
Yes.
Alright, let's
thank
get out
you.
of here, let's go.
We're trying to,
Let's get
we're
outta
trying to
here.
make up for all the delay.
Alright, well,
Appreciate it.
we gotta go, where's the helicopter?
Oh, that's a move.
No
from-
helicopters,
Yeah.
don't start with us.
North route or south route?
North, not the North Shore, you can fly over the Atlantic.
No, we don't want them.
Next
Go
up,
down
we
to
have
right,
Johnson
yeah.
Controls,
Agendas
for their
and
presentation with Chris
grants.
Fitzsimmons,
And then it comes up.
Drew, and,
It'll be better.
Ernesto.
Signed in, though, does it have your name on it?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. Hi, how are you?
We got the people's lives.
I have two of my team members here as well.
Too many cooks spoil the broth, always have.
Well, when you don't have a connection.
I'll take two more. And then we just need a couple for the, audience there.
All right, so you can start out by telling us what the energy performance of EFIS is.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure there's no EFS in our
I tell you, what EFS, like.
If we didn't know about
word that's
EFS, we
behind
do
it,
now.
Mold and everything else.
I don't doubt it, I don't doubt it. It's an
You're
inexpensive,
engineers, you can weigh in on EFS.
So last time I had a microphone, I hope.
Yeah, you danced back
I
and
think
forth.
you might be able to just,
Very
do we have a
entertaining.
microphone at all? Did that come off? I don't know if it's, how far you can walk with it.
It slides right up.
Is it on?
Is this on? Can you guys hear me?
I,
Check, check, check.
there we go.
Perfect,
now he's
beautiful.
a rock star up there.
There he goes again.
It's the only
Yeah,
reason he
we'll
wants
have
it.
to
Very
hold back a little bit.
entertaining.
I'm just gonna have you guys introduce yourselves quick for
Sure.
the camera.
Absolutely. Chris Fitzsimmons from Johnson Controls. I have Rob Rolston, he's my operations manager from Johnson Controls, and Steve Bodie, my sales manager, also from Johnson Controls.
Welcome.
And thanks for having us today. We're excited to show you what we came up with. Back in August, we were selected to build an energy performance contract for the town of Riverhead. We took the past 3 months, looked at a lot of items, came up with a great project for you guys. We're excited to show you the benefits of it and how choosing us to build it for you is going to really be a good thing for the town. So I'll get started, I think. There we go. So today we're going to go over introductions we just did. We have a safety moment, and every meeting we do a safety moment and an integrity moment. Our objective for this project, our solutions. We'll go over the financial overview, the advantages the town will see, and our timeline. Our safety moment is cold weather safety, okay? I chose a nice picture of Main Street there. Remind you guys it's coming. That was, I think from Newsday, it was a state of emergency. It doesn't look too bad, but dress appropriately, listen to reports and advisories, clear snow carefully, stay indoors when possible. And most important is consider neighbors in need. You might not think of them automatically, but they need to get out, they might be trapped. Think about that. So that's our safety moment for today. Integrity moment, Johnson Controls, that's how we live, that's our mantra. We make sure that everything we do is with integrity in mind first. I wear my pin every day. That kind of shows where we are. So all of these words also show that. This is what you get with us. So this is the same objective I put up on the board a few months ago. I'll read it again if that's okay. Demonstrate how the town of Riverhead can reduce overall operational costs, address townwide infrastructure needs, and achieve critical facility upgrades challenged by capital constraints through an energy performance contracting project. We did those 3 items and we did one more, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Past 3 months, we've been crawling around, and thanks for the access. The engineering team has been amazing for us. The whole staff, Drew and Ernesto, these are the best guys I've ever worked with, honestly. They've given us everything we need even before we asked for it.
Very
So,
good, thank you.
guys, definitely. Still waiting for that hug, by the way.
Might be waiting a while on that one.
So, just an overview, what's in the project. We have 15 different, we'll call them facility improvement measures, items. That could be lighting, HVAC units, window film, you'll see, I'm gonna go through each building and what we're doing. 15 facilities, every road in the town is gonna get new LED lighting. And everything I show you today is 100% guaranteed. Savings are guaranteed, we guarantee it. We show you what we're gonna do, we make sure we do it, we show you the measurement and verification and prove we do it. Makes sense. So we'll start with town-wide street lighting. The LED lighting, metal halide to LED lighting fixture replacements, consistent with what you guys have done already. I'm sure this thing's being changed, maybe today even, but we're consistent with what you have. We know the items and we put them in the project, and we can show you, mock up, whatever you want. It's a living, breathing piece. The street lighting is ongoing, so we kind of catch up to it. When we get to contract, that's kind of where we settle up, but same stuff. Light levels are consistent with what you have. If there's something that doesn't seem right, we'll make it right. A lot of items in town hall. All of the lighting and controls, exterior lighting, the temperature setback. You have an energy management system now, but it's old, it's antiquated. So we're gonna update it with new thermostats that can be controlled wirelessly. Okay. Yeah.
Freeze everybody.
Window film, keep the heat out. Boiler replacements, we're going with top-of-the-line Viessmann energy-efficient boilers, going from 3 to 2. This was one of our big problems. We found a way to solve it and get it into the project, which is, I know we're all excited about that one. We're also going to be putting some solar on the roof, okay? Originally, that wasn't an idea, but it works now. It's a good idea. It's town hall. Let's do something good at town hall too. Let's get some renewable energy. The roof replacement, new membrane on the roof of this building. So, you know, that's 20-year warranty also. We'll be doing that for you. And the rooftop unit, we're doing new condensers. Rob, I think you told me about the R22 refrigerant that's gonna be outlawed.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to the new 410A, which is more efficient, more environmentally friendly, and the way you need to go in the future. You can't get the other stuff.
You can't get the replacement parts for the R22.
Correct, and
Very
you-
expensive.
you've gotten almost
If you can
every
find
last
them.
day out of
eBay.
the unit up there.
Yeah.
You're on borrowed.
We're down to the minutes.
You're on borrowed time.
Yeah. So you guys understand that, and thanks, Rob. At Stotsky Park, the ball field lighting, we're gonna change to LED, okay? There's a lot of O&M savings from that, because just to go up and change one light is, I think I could say thousands of dollars, you know? It's crazy. We originally were gonna do some carports over at Stotsky Park. The modeling, you need to support with solar, you need to support a building, okay, with the energy produced. We were gonna support the pump house on the corner of the building. It doesn't model right because the new incentives, the timing, doesn't work. Production and when those pumps run are off. One's in the daytime, the pumps run at night. Yeah, the new model really doesn't fit. Rob, you wanna expand on that a little?
The pumps are primarily running early morning hours from 3 to 9, and the sun's coming up at 6, so we would get so much production during the day that you wouldn't get the full benefit of the solar, with the new programs that PSEG has.
Just need to
Just talk louder.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the pump house, uses most of its power during the early morning hours when the sun is down. So when the, sun is up, when we get the benefit of the solar, we won't get the full benefit, so we chose not to do it. We had looked at it and we decided against it in the final proposal.
And those are the new incentive programs, and there's a lot of kickback on those, so in the future, we're hoping they change again, where it really, you know,
Well,
supports
I
it.
just point out, you talk about Stotsky Park, I remember we did this about 4 or 5 years ago, we looked at that, and there was a lot of pushback from recreation about the use of LED lights at night with ball fields. Maybe they've come a long way since then, but I know there was a lot of, whether it was regular lights or LED lights and the vision and
So the
everything else.
first generation of LED lighting, provided too much glare. So I mean, Yankee Stadium now has LED lighting, it has come to the point where it's a perfected technology. We're not
Yankee
on the-
Stadium, well,
We're
that
not on the
plan.
first generation of LED lighting.
Okay, all right, but I know there was a.
Yes,
few
there
years
was initial pushback that you could lose the ball in the sky
Yeah.
where if you
Yes.
got a glare from
Sure.
LED, but that no longer exists.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, LED lighting technology changes daily. Yeah, so.
Good.
But thanks for the question. So the solar, we pushed that to the side for now, and we're able to put it on Town Hall. I like it.
I like that.
Town Hall West, 60 kilowatts of renewable energy, and the energy management system, just bringing it up to what we're doing townwide here and some other buildings. The LED lighting is all done over there. It's a great building, great facility. Senior Center, again, all lighting, controls, exterior, the energy management system, windows and window film, and vending machine controllers. A small fun thing, they turn them off when nobody's near them, saves a little bit of energy, really quick payback, you'll see. George Young, same lighting measures, same energy management system, window film, vending machine, exactly the same as the senior center, okay? Historical building, so we're aware of that. We keep that in mind during construction. Across the street, same lighting and some window film, smaller building. Highway department, lighting, with the garage bays active, the controlling that heat and temperature is impossible. The behavior models that building, so. Municipal garage, all of the lighting again. One item, the fire alarm. We're gonna be putting a fire alarm in there.
Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I know that was
Yeah,
an
that's why
important
let's put it
item,
in there.
yeah. So we were able to get that into the project as well, kind of in the 11th hour. My team made it work. It's a good thing. And that's with Tyco. That's one of our companies that we work with. That's, we
that
own,
was
yeah,
good.
same company, so we were excited about that. And 60 kilowatts of solar on that building also. On the main building to the left, that smaller ancillary extension there won't have any solar, but the main building will support it. Police station. Again, the main thing here is the roof, complete rip and tear.
Thank God.
Yeah,
It's only been 10 years since we needed that.
yeah, complete roof replacement. Rob, again, if you want to just expand on
Yeah,
what's
so-
going to be happening,
So what we
please.
plan to do at the police department roof is, take the entire roofing system off, all the metal facade, go right down to the deck and put a new, fully adhered, TPO, roof. So we'll have insulation, tapered to get to all the drains, all new metal,
Alright.
and a nice warranty, so that you'll have, no leaks for a long period of time.
It's been leaking for 20 years.
I think that's the warranty, 20 years, right, Rob? We'll get to that.
That's quite a price tag, too.
Again, another item we were super excited to get into the project. It just points to the fact that the town is, the energy usage, it's hemorrhaging capital through energy costs. We're gonna use it the right way. Daycare center, couple items, same energy management system. I think that's important there. It's not a highly used building right now. I think we're gonna be, shooting for more activity in that building, through conversations, but right now it could be 72 degrees, it could be empty. And then a couple buildings with just lighting upgrades. East End Arts Council, Carriage, Corwin, those are right in town there. Then the sewer department, the exterior lighting, big savings there. And there's rebates for the exterior lighting now too, which is great. So the results, I'll read the first statement. Town of Riverhead reallocates budgeted utility and operational costs into energy savings capital improvements without the need for increased taxes. You guys don't have to pay for any of this. This is already being paid for, okay? Annual savings that we found between energy and O&M savings, operational and maintenance, for year one is almost $500,000, okay? The next slide or two is kind of going to break it out through the term that we put up. 20-year term, saving close to $10 million in energy costs and operational costs.
And I know there's an escalator in the energy costs each year.
2%, yes, yeah. I think the energy law allows 3%. We always kind of be conservative about that, because you don't know what's gonna happen. Probably gonna be 4 or 5, but it's all good. So this is the third item, the fourth item from the objective. Third line item, positive cash flow. You're actually gonna have a positive cash flow situation, which means your budget, you're gonna have extra money to do other projects on top of this, which is, again, it blew my mind. The energy savings is amazing in this project.
I called for it first.
I was saying, why didn't we do this, why wasn't this done before?
It's just a matter of getting the resources, you know. But that's, you know, my joke is that's one heck of a pizza party. So, but you can get a lot of other things done and solve some other issues you might have, smaller things that we're not touching on. Fourth item, immediate needs, avoided costs, boiler, roofs, fire alarm now. You know, these are things you're gonna be spending money for anyway, so let's put it into the contract, the project. Again, 15, and 100%. The measures, facilities, and the guarantee, the savings guarantee. A little bit about us, we'll brag about ourselves a little bit. You get total project management by a local team. I live in Sayville, Rob lives in Port Jefferson, Steve's up in Connecticut, kind of local. But the rest of our team is real local. There's 3 of us. There's gonna be about another 10 to 12 guys on this project, making sure everything jives. Project management is a big part of this. All of these items get done in 5, 6, 7, 8 months. We do it. You guys do your other stuff. Experienced and dedicated crew. We've done this in over 80 school districts on the island, and this will be our 5th town on the island. That's our goal. All incentive and rebate processing. The paperwork is tremendous, you know, just knowing what to put through. We have a dedicated team for that. Ernesto's pretty good at it, so we might get him to help us a little bit, but this one's pretty important. Project expedition and prompt implementation. It's wordy, but it just means we're gonna do it quickly. You guys won't have to worry about it. It'll be done. We're shooting what, I mean, if we get started, July, I think, Rob, is that what our?
If we started in, February with the actual construction weather related, we'd hopefully be shaking hands in July, done.
Yeah, everything I'm showing you guys. One piece, and you'll see, I think it's also at the end of this presentation. The payments don't start till everything's done. So if we throw a light in today, the energy savings, you guys realize that immediately. But your payment obligation, not until you know, substantial completion is signed, which is another huge benefit. Top quality product with warranties that we vetted out. Highly experienced and qualified installers, also qualified, vetted. Johnson Controls, partners of ours that are some local contractors, some are our own. We have experienced people, qualified. We vetted them. We're not gonna bring anybody on that doesn't have integrity like we do. It's important.
And you're aware of the fact that we have an apprenticeship program, right?
I've heard about it. We're happy to work with anybody you wanna bring us into the project. Absolutely. Public relations and media coverage, we'll be proud of it. We all will be, and it's a good thing. So that year 1 and measurement and verification, we're gonna prove to you that the guarantee is there. In some cases, we charge for that. We put it into the project. It's a fee. We have people running around and doing the data collection, making sure the savings are there. This project has that first year included, so it's no charge.
So if the savings aren't as much as the cost of the bond to go out and do all this work, you compensate that,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Is that for 1 year or is that for?
Well, it's the first year is M&V covered, so, I mean, we have that in there. When you see that the first year, if it doesn't get covered, You can choose to do second, third year, okay, and extend the contract a little bit. But usually the first year, if that savings is there, guaranteed, it's done, it's proven the first year, you might not need to check the second year, the third year.
Right, so the
Yeah.
first year savings was 112,000, I believe.
Correct.
So if our bond indebtedness is 150,000, you're gonna pay us the difference between 112 and 150, right?
No, the savings, if we have savings per year that we guarantee, the amount of the savings. The bond indebtedness, and I think I'm answering your question right, is through a finance program with a bank, and you'll see it on the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually, it's a tax exempt lease purchase, which that's how it gets paid for. It's a yearly payment, annual payment, so.
No, I know, but I thought that when you had given the first presentation, am I mistaken?
I think you're
That it
talking, when he showed, on one slide, he had cash positive. Is that the number you're talking about? That has nothing to do, that's cash positives.
What I'm saying is that if we go out and bond all this work, and our bond indebtedness is $500,000 a year, and we're saving $500,000 a year, then you don't give us anything to supplement the cost of doing all the work. I thought that in your original presentation, if we were spending $500,000 a year on a bond, and we were only saving $300,000 a year, that you guaranteed the 200,000 to make us whole.
Yeah, we're gonna tell you that it's gonna save this much energy, okay, during the year. If we don't reach that goal, then we make up that difference. Yeah, so that guaranteed savings that we work to put together is a guarantee. If we don't reach that savings, then of course we cut you a check for the shortfall.
That's what I wanna make sure.
Yeah. And I think, Rob, am I answering that right?
Absolutely, I mean, it's math too, we go from a 40-watt lamp to a 15-watt lamp, it's gonna use less power and your bills are gonna go down, so I mean,
But the
It's
bills-
it's that difference that they're saying that we're saving each year that they're guaranteeing, the dollar value of that
Right.
savings.
Right, and if we don't meet that dollar value of savings, then they.
Right, has nothing to do with the
Correct.
bond.
Right, as they've
but
calculated
not
it.
with the bond.
Has nothing to do with the payback of the bond.
Right.
It has to do with guaranteeing the savings.
Right. Good. I think we covered that. And thanks for the question. So that's the first year M&P. So this is our JCI value. This is what our team is gonna be doing. Total project management, peace of mind for you guys. That's the plan. And then just to touch on that, here's the cash flow, okay?
Oh, I can see that.
It's in your,
Yeah, it's-
I knew that was coming, by the way.
You know what, I'm gonna, Bill, do you wanna just come sit up here in case there's any questions?
Morning, Bill.
Oh, here it is, okay, good.
So part of our project is also to research opportunities for financing, okay? And we put out a request to banks that we deal with all the time, and we had one come back with a nice rate, and we put it in to this project. Now, this option shows a 20-year payback, okay? It's up to you what you guys do, okay? This shows a nice $112,000 positive cash flow through 20 years. I put it into the calculator. If you go to 18, it cuts it by 25%. What happened? And even if we choose to do a 15-year now, with the changes that we made, you'll still be positive about $50,000, okay? 20-year at a 3.7, which was 2 days ago we got that number, which is nice, yeah. So that first column is your cost now, with all the facilities and measures that we've put into this project, escalating up to $22 million over 20 years, okay? With the changes, we're gonna cut it down to $13 million over 20 years. That's with a 2% escalation, okay? Annual savings starting at $378,000 on energy savings. Operational and maintenance savings from this project. We decided on $94,000, discussing with the town engineers. There's gonna be more. We just, we underpromise and overdeliver. That's our goal here. The rebate number is only interior lighting, I think, Rob, right?
And the little exterior LEDs, yeah. Well,
Right, yeah, and the exterior LEDs, yeah. There's gonna be some more, but that has yet to be kind of decided. Once we put the project in, exactly the FIMS, what we're doing, what the items are, there will be more rebate money coming to you. We just don't like to commit to it when we can't see it.
like the roofs are eligible for rebates, and that would be incremental money that you guys would, achieve.
Yeah, and other small things, you know. Total annual savings for, close to $500,000, okay? And with this cash flow, this table, the rate and the time period, you're looking at that lease payment of $386, giving you a delta of plus $112,000 first year over 20 years. Like I said, cut it down to 18, you're still cash positive. 15, you're still cash positive by $50,000. It's up to you guys how you want to spread out your finances. Cumulative cash flow is almost $3 million.
Did you, when you were doing your evaluation of all the buildings that we own, or that our offices are in, did you break them out individually by building and based on the cost savings by building? Because we are, I think, looking at something for police and justice court where they may not be over there, so that might, you know, not be done in the first year where other things may be done in the first year. So I know that when you had done the original presentation, you said that you could do this now and you could do that later, and so I'm just wondering if you broke out the cumulative savings per building, or is it on the overall project?
It's not in this presentation, but in our spreadsheets, we do have those numbers. So once we get to kind of digging into the scope of work, we can look at that a little bit tighter.
Yeah,
The next slide shows savings by FIM, by measure, but we can definitely, again, it's a living, breathing project at this point. We can pull or put anything else, take whatever, you know, the town decides, but that's a good question, so.
Well, despite the use of the building would survive any use, so.
I'm just saying, if we didn't do it all at once from February till August for all of the buildings between that time period, and we only wanted to do a few buildings now, and then maybe hold off on the other ones, see what we're gonna do. If we do something with police and justice court, or find another location, and that building goes over there, then do we move engineering over to police and justice court? So just trying to figure out where the position of all of the employees are going to be at any time, and when the construction should actually occur. Because replacing the roof, you're not gonna want those people in the building, correct?
No, we can, well,
They're tough, they can't do it in the building.
rigging the materials on the roof, we would do it off hours, but we can do the roof while it's occupied, that's not a
The
problem.
demo
It's not a-
and the rebuild?
It's not a city.
Yeah, police department don't close anyway.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
but I think
they
the
said they're
building
doing
needs
it
to be
off
done there
hours, but
regardless of
PD
who's
is up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Understood, we would obviously do it when they're least busy, but, we have flexibility, we prefer to work days, we can work 3 to 11 when it's less
Just a
busy.
little bit louder again, the microphone's
Sorry,
here.
I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay.
We have flexibility to work during the day or after hours, we know it's open 24/7, but,
Hey, your clerical staff's not there
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
evening or whatever, so it's
Right.
less intrusive. But to go with what Jody's saying, I think that's a discussion for another day very soon, that we really should do maybe at a work session, and we really have to start thinking about what we're looking to do, with other buildings because of space needs and such. So this is gonna be impacted by what we decide to do with these other buildings. And I'm glad you asked that, because you answered it very well, where we can attack that right now, or we don't have to attack that right now, we can, you know, but it's something we as a board collectively have to work on
Well, we
real
need,
soon.
obviously, we need to do something about justice court.
Right.
We need to make a decision at some point, I mean, if we're gonna move justice court, are we gonna still use the building?
Right,
Because
that's,
if it's still
sure.
gonna be the police station or some other building, then we still need to do the
The work on the
Absolutely.
roof.
It's still gonna be a municipal building.
And there's not that much over at that building going on, it's the roof, it's the
Right.
energy management,
Right.
it's some
And
exterior lighting and lighting, so it's not.
It's always gonna be a
not a
completely
big-
old building.
That's not
Well,
our
that's
biggest
why I'm
expense.
saying if we can pull the realized savings out of each individual building rather than looking at it cumulatively. because if we don't do the police station now, which may be a minimal savings, where town hall would be a tremendous savings, like, we need to know which project we're going to realize the most savings.
So the police
Immediately.
department, because it's used 24 hours, actually has a lot of lighting savings. So
Yeah.
we would wanna limit the amount of lighting we remove from that space, because it has very good payback this year. It's on so much.
Right, so that's what I wanna know, is
Yeah.
where's the biggest payback and what do we need to do now?
Yeah, and that's the next slide, yeah. Yeah, we build projects by measure. Doesn't, you know, for us, I mean, for you it matters, but for us, we wanna capture the savings from lighting everywhere to pay for that roof. We can do it by building for you, just so you can see, you know, as far as what you're gonna do, but, by measure, that's kinda how we do it, so.
Yeah, cause we need to see what the
Sure.
savings is versus what the bond indebtedness is going to be and the payment is going to be on an annual basis.
Sure. Going backwards now for some reason. Oh, 'cause I'm on that, okay.
I feel like it's
Ooh, you don't have the
unlikely
page, huh?
I have it. I clicked back before, anyway.
Tricky finger.
So here's the JCI project payback table. By FIM, by measure. Okay, and I'll let you guys kind of poke at this and take a look. By items, that's how we capture energy savings to pay for other items. You'll see items like that energy efficient rooftop retrofitting that we're doing with a 90-year payback can get done. The roof's 72-year payback can get done through the lighting savings of 5 years, 7 years, the vending machines, whatever. Street lighting, 11 years. Those savings help pay for the other measures in the other buildings. So where I understand about splitting up the buildings, that's okay, we can do that. Sometimes, at least maybe we do the lighting everywhere, okay? We do the street lighting everywhere. Those items that have that really good payback and that return on investment.
That's what I wanted to see.
Yep,
Yeah, cause the lower payback items help you pay for a lot of your capital needs, so if you can utilize the lighting to help pay for your roof.
Right.
You know, that saves on a lot of capital, so it's, you try to look at everything holistically, where we can pull in the savings to pay for boilers, roofs, stuff that you probably would have to bond
The
for.
big ticket
Right.
items,
Big
right?
ticket items, so it's kind of a trade-off, you know.
Right.
yeah. Comprehensive project. Fire alarm doesn't have any payback, but it's necessary. So we just put it in there. More bullet points. The deferred maintenance problem solved. The boilers, the roof replacement, and the membrane here. Those are big compelling events right now. Those are things we need to focus on and get done. The potential code violation for the fire alarm system, that's solved. We take care of that. Installed soup to nuts. The fourth item on the objective, cash positive. It's great. Again, like I said before, the financial obligation begins after everything's done. So you get the savings. We don't even calculate that. That's extra. Full LED conversion for the street lighting completed when the job's completed, July, August of next year. I think we've been trying to piecemeal that for years. And sustainability and renewable energy initiatives just get heightened, they get on the radar. You know, the Climate Action Committee of Suffolk County, they're a group of kids that I met with last week in Islip. They mean business. They stormed the town board meeting last week, and it was interesting. But they're good kids. A lot of them are from my town, and they love to see good news like this. So why not have them on your side? Yeah, I'm not teamed with them, but it's just kind of a thing. If you're not doing something, they're going to come after people. It should be interesting. So this is our timeline from the beginning. We started with planning, discussions, again, with the engineering team. Thank you very much. We did all our site surveys. A team of about 5 or 6 people, including myself, developed this project for you guys. You guys selected us in August to put something together, and we did. I think we answered every question, covered a lot, and some things you might not have even anticipated. We determined some scope, pricing, funding. We can build that in a little bit. The detailed energy and study report. We have a package that's being edited and binded for you guys. That's kind of everything we looked at, and items we're not choosing to put in, but you can see why we didn't, and those are other things maybe you can use your positive cash flow for, maybe. So after today, here's where we are. Report delivery, here's our report, and then the agreement. You guys decide that this is a good thing for you guys, it is, and then we can go next steps, contract agreement, and begin implementation as soon as Rob can get his team together, which is pretty much yesterday.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Any other questions,
So-
anything I can answer?
Well, you have a standard contract, right?
We have terms and conditions that we've shared with Mr. Kozakevich
Okay.
already. He's reviewed them, no questions from him. But from this point, we have scope that we would build on, right, Steve, if you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, since we presented everything, it's really defining what FIMs you wanna pursue so that we can build them into the contract. That's the key for us, I mean.
Speak up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
These mics are horrible.
Yeah.
No problem. It's kind of identifying what FIMs you wanna pursue in the town, that way we can include them into our contract and finish up our final calculations and get some type of agreement cohesively what the actual project lays out. I mean, we've looked at everything holistically, we've built something to maximize your energy savings to use to get a lot of capital work done. You know, and our vision is that you kinda look at that, if you're gonna reuse these buildings, you're spending the money whether you do something with this or.
Yeah, right, I'm with you.
You're gonna spend the money, so why not try to capitalize on those savings to get a lot of your
Right.
use
larger
get
projects
larger
done.
projects done that, you know, might take a lot of bonding, it might take increase in taxes. Utilize what you can save to drive a lot of that high capital cost work and reduce your overall cost to the town.
Yep, I agree.
So, the 5.5 million for the cost for all this construction, does that include, Johnston's fee? That's everything.
So,
Project management, everything.
And then you went out and you looked at interest rates, so you ended up at a 3.7% interest rate. I had asked just to see at a 15-year payout, what the interest, if we reduced it
Sure.
significantly, and where we would be at with that.
Right, yeah, so the interest rate will vary, you know, a little bit, but I put it into our calculator, and again, you're still positive cash flow for an 18-year and a 15-year. I did send an email to you with those calculations. It's a Bank of America quote right there, and it's living, breathing. Of course, interest rates change, nothing's locked in, but that's a good number right there. And we can put together any project you want. That's something you build on with your financer of choice also. We just kind of know who we work with, so 18 and 15 years, you're still gonna have positive cash flow.
So, is this a line of credit, so that we use the money as we need it, or is this one lump sum that we're borrowing at one time?
It's a payment, right?
So one payment,
You're
one
gonna get a
payment
tax
per year.
exempt municipal lease, and it'll be in escrow. Just like a normal construction project, we would look to submit monthly invoices that are approved by, throughout the town, and then you send an authorization to the bank, and the bank would wire us the money monthly as we go through the construction
Perfect.
period.
It's a drawdown.
Okay, so you're only paying the interest on what you're borrowing at the time. So if we don't fulfill all the, projects in 1 year, then we did some the subsequent year, then
Well-
whatever.
Well, that would have to be part of the contract, because right now what they do is they give us the proposed measures, right? So these are their FIMs that they're talking about. So if, say, we were to say, okay, roof replacement, the payback for that is 72 years, we want that out. That would get pulled out of the project, so you're gonna sign the contract by projects. And that would be for this contract. So if we wanted to do something next year, that wouldn't be in this project. That would be then a second project that we would do as sort of a phase 2. But a phase 1 would be a contract for all the projects we were gonna complete within that timeline, which is however long it takes them to do, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months there. And that's what would be contained in this project. It wouldn't be a second contract for work to be done a year from now that we bond for now and draw off of. Is that,
Well,
am I
he's-
correct on that?
I don't know that he's saying bonding, he's saying Bank of America, so that's like not going out for bond. Bill, am I mistaken?
But it's a lease though, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna pay this back, so in other words, we're borrowing the money, correct me if I'm wrong, we're borrowing the money until the project's done in increments, and then once that's done, then we have our monthly or whatever.
Yearly
or
payment.
Yearly payment that we're gonna have going forward for the 15, 18, 20 years that we agree on. Is that correct?
But it would be based on the number of projects we commit to at this, this juncture. So anything that we chose to pull out of the project, then they'd have to reanalyze the cost
Yeah, I was gonna
savings and,
say,
and the numbers, and then, we would, you know, it would be,
Looking at what they propose, they're really addressing, the capital things is what I'm really interested in, because the roofs definitely have to be done. And I think using those buildings for the cost incentive to help pay for that, I think you take one thing out of this particular proposal, it's gonna really upset the apple cart.
That's why I wanted to see each
And
individual
all these
broken
things
out.
need to be done, and I agree with you, but whether the court's there or the police there, or whether they're never there, that building still needs to be done, and it's always gonna be municipal use, and the savings in the lighting, so I don't see anything here that's off the mark as far as what needs to be done.
I don't
Well-
either, but you know, if we could have the projects broke out by building, shouldn't be too difficult, so if you could send that over to us also.
I think
Yeah,
would
and also
be-
the financing options that you sent over to the supervisor, if we could get a copy of that also, that'd be great.
Absolutely, and I can get that number also re-tuned up today, tomorrow, where we are today, with the numbers and different levels, yeah, absolutely, from the bank, I'm sorry.
Just as an aside, I think with the police station right next door, we will be using that for some municipal
Always.
use at some point. I think it's unlikely that we just will not use that building.
Oh, no. No, I see us connecting these two buildings down the road.
Yeah, I mean, the way we looked at it, just to try to get something done that you wanted done for a long time, like a roof. If you can use lighting to pay for the roof, you know, it's really beneficial for the town, I mean.
And the boilers.
And the boilers
I'm
and.
excited
Fire.
about the boilers, since it's freezing in here.
I'm excited about this whole project. I think that
Yes.
there's a lot of things in here that need to get done, that we've talked about getting done, and that we've tried to put together, you know, figuring out how we can get it done, and I think to be able to do that with basically it being cost neutral, because of the savings we can realize through the lighting, I think is a win-win for the taxpayers of the town.
I agree, I think there's probably a lot more that's not in here that probably, that can be
Looked at
done.
everything, yeah, and then we pulled some things, there's more to do.
But this just make this
Right.
particular work for what we need.
But that's just what I wanna see, is that it's cost neutral.
Well, it looks like it is, in fact, it's
Well-
cash positive.
Cost
Cost
positive,
neutral
actually.
from the projects that are in here right now?
For what our annual payment is going to be to the bank,
Well, that's what
Cash
this,
positive,
but that's what this chart,
100,000
this,
a year.
that's,
Right, though?
this chart here, do you want some explanation on the cash flow chart here, is that what you're asking? Cause we do have that information here. So the total project comes out at 5.4 million,
yeah?
right, and they've done it out as an interest rate of 3.7. So our payments would be 386,460, that's the annual lease payments, and then according to their calculations, the annual energy savings are in here, which is the 378,445, that's in year one, and it stays positive, they have a 2% escalator on that going all the way down. And then our annual O&M cost savings, and that has to, if you wanna explain that, that has to do with changing lighting fixtures, things that they were talking about, changing the lights over the ball fields, things like that.
Sure,
but-
yeah, it's just the cost of doing business, having contractors come in, or the lighting changes, everything costs money to do, you guys won't have to worry about doing that. And we actually had a number that was pretty higher than that, and we, like I said, we're conservative.
We went conservative
Yeah.
on that number, so.
And I'll defer to our engineering department, you've gone through the O&M costs with them, and you find these numbers to be accurate for what we have been spending? Yeah. So that would be the savings there, so that's the total annual savings in the last column of the cash flow that you have there. The annual lease payments here, so our annual savings, because right now to light a bulb, we pay $1.10, and then changing them over to LED, we'll pay 65
I
cents,
get it.
that's the savings.
25% reduction.
So that's the annual cost savings that they figured out here that you're guaranteeing, correct? Correct? So, and then we have our annual lease payments, and so then that's where we get the cash flow here, and then we actually, according to these numbers, the cumulative cash flow, we're positive every year through year 1 through year 20. So,
I guess the
It's that simple.
It's better, it's
operating and
better than
maintenance,
cost
so
improvement.
you're saying engineering that we have $1.7 million in bills every year for
No, 94,000.
94,000.
It's column number 4,
94,000,
yeah.
okay, so over 20 years.
Yeah,
20 years.
and that wasn't escalated at all. You know, there's no 2% increase on that, and we know our costs increase, you know, let's say for minimum 1 to 2% each year. So that's, you know, the savings there may be even greater.
It's higher than that.
Realize it by
It
us.
is, yeah. Like I said, we cut it almost in half. Yeah, I mean,
And your
it's-
numbers are pretty.
I'm gonna say your numbers are
Conservative.
conservative because you're guaranteeing a conservative number.
yeah, we don't wanna miss the guarantee.
Yeah, you don't wanna wind up short, yeah.
We're not in the business of cutting those shortfall checks, we're gonna make the numbers.
Yeah.
That's,
Have you ever missed your mark?
Yes.
So it's trial and error, so you ain't gonna do that again.
Well, we got about $1 billion worth of guaranteed savings out on it right now, just in New England, in our market. You know, we do have shortfalls, we do pay on shortfalls, we mitigate shortfalls, we'll work with you, check, or we'll come in and say, all right, you know, to remediate this for the rest, we can do this. And, you know, we'll work with you to, you know, eliminate that so that, you know, shortfalls don't continue. But, you know, I would say we pay less than 1/10 of 1% out. I mean, we're very, you know, we know what we're doing.
Good, your numbers.
We work with your staff, we try to build a project that meets your needs. And we take your data and, you know, we get feedback from your staff, where the problems are, what you want to address, and, you know, then we use our intellectual knowledge and engineering to lay out something that meets your criteria and needs, and that's kind of what we've done here, so.
Good job.
Thank you. So from this point,
Excited.
yeah, we'll get that information for the financing over and a breakout by, facility
That would be nice.
on
thank you.
savings. You guys will have that in the next day or two, and then
Generators.
from there, once we decide that, you know, you're good,
Then
we
we'll
can
make
work
a
on the
decision.
contract, yeah,
Okay, very good.
absolutely.
Is any other questions from anybody?
No, thank you, it's very
No?
comprehensive, very good.
Thank you for having us
All right,
today.
thank you very much.
Thank you,
Do
gentlemen.
my house for me. Already got solar, and I got gas, and I got.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm gonna be here a long time.
Because they did the Manitoba School District.
Yeah, that's what, now that you said that, I'm just thinking, I remember she did say that.
I know. You did. All right, we will move on to our next, which is the Sims property, acquisition, which is actually, Drew and,
Don't go far.
Ernesto again. You have a fun-filled day, town hall today.
You look sleepy already.
So this is, the Suffolk County has, reached out to us because they have been working with, a piece of property over on West Main Street across from Cromer Avenue, to purchase that, and what they do, the county, in usually purchasing property, they reach out to the municipality, to partner about coming up, and usually the county will buy the property, and, if the municipality is then interested in helping to either create a park there or to consider it for open space. So this is a potential concept plan if the county is able, and part of that is that the county would like to see what the town might be interested in doing, and whatever it is that you put in is for the life of the property. So anything that you would like to see there at some point in time, not just this year, but even in 20 years from now, the ability to put on the property has to be has to be within the concept plan, the current concept plan when the land is acquired, if indeed they are able to come to an agreement with the landowner and the county. It's very similar to, Jamesport, where they acquired the land over in Jamesport. We had gone to the county to put in a couple of trails in there, and then that was part of the concept plan when the county acquired that property, to
Right,
make it a
normally-
hamlet park.
Normally, the county would come to us first and say, are you interested in the county buying this property for preservation? And then.
Well, not necessarily, they can go to the owner first, I believe the county went through Jamesport Civic, and they went to the land of Denoto for Jamesport first. and then came back to the town to see
We
if the town
actually
would
wrote
be.
them a letter of support, and there was a resolution to that effect before they actually started making offers on the
Well,
property.
absolutely, and that's part of what this is here.
So they haven't made an offer yet?
No, no.
We're actually, if
I
I
don't
could
think
just
so.
hand out, the county has a resolution that they're trying to actually vote on next week, but depending on what you guys think, obviously, they're bowing to us. They're trying to authorize the appraisal of this property, because they're not even sure
Whether
what
they
they're
can
planning on
yeah.
paying for it yet. I mean, they have a certain amount of open space money, so they've really not even gotten through much of the process. They figured they'd reach out to us and see what the town of Riverhead is interested in doing. So they're very early in their process, which is why we're trying to get ahead of the curve to see.
So
what
there's
we
four
can do.
parcels, actually four individual parcels, all owned by the same person.
And it's right along the Peconic River. One of the other interesting things that I think it's kind of exciting about this parcel is that to the east of this is already a park that is owned by Suffolk County, which has a kayak launch down there. There is another parcel of property in between, which is, LIPA PSEG. When we did actually reach out to them and ask them if this property were to be acquired by the county, would they consider at some point an easement across the back half of their property down by the river there, and then this property. So it would create quite a nice access, to the Peconic River, which we're always looking to
Have you
highlight.
walked this property?
What?
Have you walked this property?
Yes.
It's terrible.
It's Japanese knotweed, it's got a lot of invasive species that needs to come out.
But it is on the it's on the
It is
river.
an old duck farm.
Oh my God, I used to hang out.
It does need a lot of,
It needs to be stripped.
yeah.
It needs to be.
And that's the whole thing, will the DEC allow that?
Well, people from Conic Estuary came, because the Japanese knotweed is the invasive species, and they looked at what was the county did down there, so there is potential. They may not, this is all concept.
Yeah.
So, and as I said, this is concept not just for today, but for the life of the property if it were to be acquired.
But
So
e-
I will turn over to you.
But even if it was open space, wouldn't it be visually a good view to the riverfront? You're saying,
Open space, wouldn't you just leave it the way it is?
You would have to, if it was bought with open
You
space
could
money.
you could never put a trail in there, you could never put a parking area in there. It would basically be not accessible to not that it's not accessible to the public, it wouldn't be user-friendly and
so
accessible
we
to
have
the
to see
public.
what the DEC would let us do then.
Well, I think, I'll turn it over to you as far as this goes at this point.
Alright, so I think, the first thing we can do is have a, drone fly over the property.
So you can see what it looks like today.
Big brother watching.
And you can see what we're talking about, it's a lot of invasive species there, you can see the water in the background, hopefully it, not too choppy.
So your drone needs some gas in it or something.
I think it's the computer, not the drone, but you get the idea, there's a lot of invasive species there, but you have the water access, there's the, start to see the LIPA high-tension wires come into view.
And all of that on the riverfront there is invasive species.
Now we're going back north towards Route 25.
Mr. Where does the power line stop to the south?
It crosses the river.
Does cross the river?
Yeah, it goes over to 24.
And the drone's gonna flip around here in a second, you're gonna see the, west side of the property.
And there's also a piece of this parcel, I believe, that's across the street over by Cromer Avenue also, that at some point, if there needed to be a wider turning area there, that there may be able to be some exception made for that.
Yes, that's the
Wider
fourth
turning
parcel.
area For what?
Well, not, like I said, whatever you put in now is for the future. So if you look over on the north side of West Main Street there, where Cromer Avenue, where you turn off of West Main, if you were coming from, west to east,
Yeah.
that's also part of it. So if you ever needed to widen the entrance onto Cromer Avenue, for whatever reason, I'd like to probably put that in the plan also as a potential. It just means that if ever and forevermore, if you needed it, you'd have to be able to do it. Once you buy it, or the county buys this without that in place, you will never be able to accomplish that.
Alright, so that's one detail we'll have to add, but,
Yeah, I know, I realize that as I'm looking
And
at it.
which piece does the county own?
so it's this, 1, 2, 3 parcels here highlighted in red,
Mm-hmm,
and then this small parcel.
right, but which,
These are the
you said
subject-
there was a property to the east that the county owns, that there's already a kayak launch there,
Oh,
where is
it's
that?
Okay,
further
so
to the
that's-
east,
That's that whole parcel
right
there.
there.
We're gonna go into
Is that
further.
whole parcel?
This parcel
Yeah, you
here.
see the, yeah, you see
Jody,
the,
you have to cross a Liper parcel to get there, so we.
This,
we
this
need
is a
an
small property here. You're gonna see, I have a plan that's better than this, photo that you just may scroll to. This would be the full build-out of our concept. It includes, a bathroom, 14 parking stalls, with 2 handicap accessible stalls, 2 wildlife viewing towers, which we have photos of in another slide you'll see. And it is a 2,130-foot elevated boardwalk that basically connects this parking lot to the viewing towers, and then ultimately through the LIPA easement, through the county park, and into the existing pathway that brings you to the canoe launch.
elevated boardwalk.
Yes.
Sounds expensive to maintain.
But this is the point, if you don't put it in a concept plan, you don't have to do it. You know, it could be 20 years from now if you ever have the money to do it, but if it is not in the concept plan, you can never go back and ask to do it.
Jody, it's
Yeah,
the
but-
same boardwalk that we have at all the beaches, it's timber tech.
Whoa,
Okay.
right,
What's that?
how high?
Synthetic, would be 2.5 feet off the
Yeah.
ground.
This has to be raised, cause you can't walk on that, a lot of that property.
And the bird viewing stations, those are made of the same thing, the timber tech?
Yeah, it's in this lower, photo here. It's a little, I don't know if I can zoom in here, but,
Should be on your sheet. It is,
Yeah, it's on your sheet. So look there.
Jody, there's a
It's on the
picture of
big
it
one.
on your sheet, wood.
it's made out of wood. It's also handicap accessible, going with the rest of the theme of the park. It's elevated 4 or 5 feet off the ground, so you can get a good look at the wildlife that hopefully will be in the area. So this is a full build-out with all 4 phases. As per the supervisor's request, we conceptualize this plan in 4 phases. The first phase will be the next slide, is just the parking lot, which will be comprised of a permeable paver material with the associated curb cuts, and that would be a permanent setup. And the 2,130-foot pathway would initially be created out of stone, a wash stone that would be subject to DEC approval, but Drew and I did our research and contacted the DEC, and they gave a preliminary approval to such measures. You'll see the pathway's a little like curved and whatnot. It's to account for being away from the buffer of the wetlands. So the pathway is as close to the water as really allowed by DEC, but it may have to be tweaked later on. Phase 2 would then incorporate the 2 wildlife bird stands. I have a full breakout of the costs at the end. Phase 3 then incorporates the elevated boardwalk to be made out of a timber tech material. It'd be approximately 2 feet off the ground, and it goes along the same pathway that we already had, and will connect to the parking lot, connect to the bird watching stations, and then ultimately end up in the same spot at the pathway to the Peconic River canoe launch ramp from the county park. And phase 4 is the addition of a unisex prefab restroom located in the parking lot. That's just a conceptual drawing of some type of prefab building that we would purchase. It looks something like that. So here's the cost estimate. Now, phase 1, there are several different options that we could take. As we all know, and we've discussed already, that the site is heavily vegetated with invasive species and other undesirable landscapes that would hinder the view of the water, which is ultimately one of the goals of the park, is to view the riverfront. So option 1 really is clearing just the parking lot and the pathway. It really doesn't address taking care of any other invasive species that may occur on the site. So this option is an option, but Drew and I's feeling is that it's very undesirable.
Wouldn't see the river in that option at all.
So that leads us to option 2, would be to clear out the invasive species surrounding the pathway and everything south of the river, south of the path towards the river, I should say. And that would, the site is about 14 acres in total, and option 2 would clear, and we would plant native species for, native grass species for 8.5 acres, just to give an idea of sort of the scope of the work. And then option 3 for the first phase of clearing would clear the entire site of the invasive species. We would replant native grasses. That's obviously the most costly option, but it is the entire 14-acre site. Phase 2 is the 2 constructions of the ADA compliant wildlife bird watching stations. It's an approximate cost, and that cost there is having our B&G crew build the structures. Phase 3, that is just a little under 800,000, and that's for the pathway, the elevated, boardwalk to go over the existing pathway. Phase 1 did include the stone pathway. I should just add that. And then finally, phase 4 is for the construction of the bathroom, associated water and electric and sanitation, sanitary system that would have to be installed to accomplish that. And then lastly, that leads us with the cost estimate, the total range, implementing all 4 phases with the different options, just come at a little under 1.1 million to over 1.6 million.
So that's it in a nutshell. And now, how much did the EPCAL trail cost about?
$850.
So $850? And that's pretty widely used.
That's 6 miles.
Pretty popular.
Yeah, it's right next to the ball fields, and there's a big parking lot there where several people can go in at any one time. And I think that that's what our focus should be, is in enhancing our existing parks, not creating new parks when we have buildings and grounds that can't even keep up with what they have now. And you're just expanding government, in my opinion, by creating a park on this lot. I mean, if the county, and I can't even imagine what the county is gonna pay for this property. We have problems with the bathroom downtown, with them being opened and closed and just,
Well,
I
I'm
don't know.
never opposed to if the county wants to buy open space for the town of Riverhead, so
Yeah, but I think that they could buy
that-
it downtown and create a park
Well,
downtown
we don't
rather
get,
than,
I think the county is choosing to, where they wanna do their open space. So
Yeah.
if they haven't, if they wanna have open space, I'm not gonna say we don't want open space in the town of Riverhead. Anything that we can maintain as open space, I'm all for.
Right.
I think that as I said before, I think that, I do see this as being costly. But one of the things that, as I was saying, is that unless you put in what you're going to do there forever, then the open space will always remain just open space with no ability for anybody in the future to ever do anything else there. So I think coming up with a concept plan, and none of this has to be done, immediately, but they need to have some concept of what is going to be put there for approval when they purchase the land, so that it can at some point in the future be done. I think it's just thinking ahead to things that may potentially work well there. You may not get from phase 1 to phase 4 for many years.
Okay.
But it allows you the ability to go do that.
okay.
Okay, so the county buys it, but the town operates it, pays for the,
Same as Jamesport,
right,
yeah, same as
and it's
most of them.
open to everybody, all county residents to come, but Riverhead's footing the bill for county parkland.
Same as we're doing in Jamesport.
But Jamesport is just a parking lot,
No,
essentially.
Jamesport
I
is
know,
a
but they're-
parking lot, and
okay.
it's two
If I could
trails.
finish, because we heard what you had to say, so if I could
But if you
finish.
just said the information correctly, because Jamesport is not just a parking, it's a parking lot and 2
Okay,
cleared trails.
But Jamesport does not have invasive species, and with invasive species, when you remove them, there is a management plan in order to keep them away. And that is a continual plan on an annual basis, so you can't just remove the invasive species once and then they go away. You have to have a continual maintenance annual plan to remove the species, and you need DEC permits in order to do it every single year. The property right now has been owned by Mr. Sims for many years. Mr. Sims has gone to the zoning board of appeals to try and get variances to build things there, and they have told him no. It is an old duck farm. There is a lot of remediation that would have to be done on this piece of property in order to build anything on it. So as far as I'm concerned, it is preserved open space forever and ever, because I don't see anybody undertaking the work that would be required in order to build something on this property, especially because it's in the Wild Scenic Recreational Rivers, and the uses are limited as is.
To turn down open space that the county's willing to buy for our town is so short-sighted.
Not when you
I
have to
think
spend $1
that's
million to
ridiculous.
build it.
That's ridiculous.
Well, that's what this discussion is about. We just wanna say that we would not like to have the ability to do this at any point
But
in
you're
our,
saying we don't
in the
have to do it.
future? Or would we like to say, okay, we're supportive of it, but only as open space that nobody will access? That's fine too, that's what this discussion is about.
Sharper Hill was minute
Yeah.
compared to this, in
But-
terms of the amount of money that it would cost to do what you're looking to do. What is the timeline from the county that you would have to complete, say, phase one?
There is no
I think
timeline.
we-
No timeline.
No
You
timeline
just have to provide, I'm understanding,
whatsoever.
you have to provide that just to show that you have a plan.
Well,
all.
that's how we did it for Sharper Hill, that's exactly how it was
I
done.
understand.
There was no specific timeline, but really there, it was just a matter of putting down some gravel for a parking lot. There wasn't a big expense as
But
to
bathroom.
what
There's no
this
reason,
is.
there's no reason this cannot be accomplished with grant money as we attain it, same as we did with EPCAL.
What we need
Right,
is
for
a,
the EPCAL trail, that was done with grant money that we received, and there's no reason that this cannot be done the same way. It does not have to be done with taxpayers' money, it can be done with grant money as we are able to accumulate it, and then move forward with it. But without having the option to be able to have it in a plan, it cannot happen.
Right, I
So
understand that.
that's
I
really.
what if we found a wealthy benefactor? Could we have someone that
It
puts
could,
in a park?
it could be done I mean, where your funding comes from is, wherever your funding comes from. But the point of this is just to show that if they acquire the land, what is it that the town may at some point want to do with the property? It's a concept of what we would like to see on the property. It may be that the town finds the concept for the property is if they acquire the property to do nothing and just leave it. I think that we have talked time and time again about having riverfront access for our community and how in the future, not only now, but in the future, it's something that we want to achieve. This would allow us the ability to achieve it at some point if we have the funding to get rid of invasive species and things like that. And as far as invasive species go, there are different ways to remove them. Some of them are more permanent than others, and that would be something that we would have to explore for that.
Which isn't even included in this cost, because the way to permanently remove it would be to get in there with an excavator and remove it from the roots. Otherwise, you're doing it by hand, and I don't even know if the DEC is gonna let you in there with an excavator, number one. Number two, for the sake of transparency, this resolution was laid on the table by the county on June 19th. Why are we just hearing about it in the first week in December? How long has this planning been going on? Have you had conversations with Legislator Krupski about this?
Sure, I've had conversations with Legislator Kopsky about it. He came to me and said, the county is thinking of purchasing this property here. Can you come up with a concept plan for this property if we were to purchase it, that the
Since
town
June.
might be interested in it?
Since June.
Yes, Jody, since June. So, can you come up with a concept plan? Engineering has completed the concept plan. When was this full plan, this issue completed? Just recently, right? We have been discussing it back and forth, right? So it was completed yesterday. It was completed yesterday for the concept plan, and it's on the work session today. So,
I mean,
that's the transparency.
Okay, so you've had engineering go out with a drone, construct a
No, I
concept
did
plan.
not have engineering go out with a
Okay,
drone.
well, did you ask them to provide a plan for this property?
Yes, this is the concept plan that I'm presenting.
Okay.
How else would you get the concept
So,
plan if
what
engineering
I'm
didn't do it?
saying is, don't you think it would have been more transparent to come to the town board first and say, the county is interested in buying this property, and I would like Drew and Ernesto to do a concept plan, so that we could figure out what the cost would be to put a park on this property?
But that's what this is.
No,
And that's what I'm
no.
presenting. There is no.
Before wasting their time, cause if we decide not to go forward with it, how much time have you put into this plan?
But what were you gonna make a decision on if you didn't have a concept plan?
Well, every single property that the county has been interested in purchasing, they have come to the town and said, we are interested in buying this property. So say in June, they would say, hey, Town of Riverhead, we're interested in buying this property, can you give us a letter of support, or can you give us a resolution in
They
support?
haven't asked for that yet, because they don't even have the property appraised, they just asked us if they were to move forward, which they have not done, they haven't even had the property appraised. They just said to us, can you give us a concept plan if we were to move forward? I said, yes, we can. I've worked with engineering, they completed the concept plan yesterday, I'm presenting it today, and if everybody's in agreement or not in agreement, that's what this discussion is about.
You're getting very defensive.
Jody, and if you are interested in it, then we can say to the county, this is the concept plan we have, and if the board is not interested, we said, no, this is not the concept plan we have, and we have a different concept plan. That's what this discussion is about.
Catherine, have you had discussions on this
why-
property also?
Actually, no, I haven't.
No?
No.
Okay.
I don't know, you know, why are we
I'm
turning this
just
into?
curious, like, for the sake of transparency.
You know, for someone that gets very upset when people interrupt, you're the biggest interrupter at the table. So, let's just think about this. Why would we turn down land that the county wants to give? Why are we turning this into some kind of silly political battle? This is about the county wanting to give land. We're always talking about how we wanna highlight the river.
Mhm.
This is on the river.
Yeah, and there's a lot.
Why would we, you're,
let you
once
finish.
again, you're
I'll let
just
you
the biggest
finish.
interrupter. Why would we turn this down? You're turning this into some kind of very silly political thing, and that's not what it's
No,
about.
I think it is a
I,
political
we're-
thing, I think it's a
Jody,
political thing.
We're all on the same team. We're trying to do what's best for Riverhead, and what's best for Riverhead is to preserve some of our open space, or to, you know, do a park at some point when we can afford it, for the town. Why would we turn something like that down?
Do you want me to answer your question? Because there are a lot of other properties that are closer to the proximity of downtown Riverhead that are for sale, that I would like to see the county buy, so that you can go from downtown and have access in walking distance to a park of this nature in downtown. Why would we wanna build a park on Forge Road and 25?
And Jody, I would be 100% supportive if the county came to us and said, there's this parcel by downtown that we'd like to preserve. And can you give us a concept of what you might be able to do there?
That's usually
I would
how it's done.
absolutely be 100% supportive of that, but they haven't done that.
That's usually how it's done.
Honestly,
And
this
I
is-
would like to say, if the county has all this money in open space preservation, that there are several other properties that are on a priority list that the town has created for the county of what properties we are interested in, and this property is not on there.
Well-
So, I just don't know how this property came up to the front of the line with the county when, you know,
Well, you'd have
we.
to speak to the county about that, because
Once
that's not a
again-
decision that we make, and that's not it's not in our
Trying to make it
purview to do
political.
that, so
Normally it
you can
is.
certainly reach out to the county and ask them that.
I've asked county legislators.
Okay,
And they have said that there is a priority list from Riverhead, and this is not on here. There is no letter from the town saying that we're interested in the county buying this property. There is no letter from the town.
It didn't initiate here, Jody, that's the point.
Normally it
The county
does.
came to us, I don't know how it works, this is the first time that I'm doing this. The county came and said, this is a piece of a parcel of property that we're interested in purchasing. Would you be interested in coming up with some sort of concept that you could put on the property? And foolish me, I didn't say, oh no, we don't want any open space, we're not interested in that. I said, sure, so I worked with engineering, came up with a concept plan that I'm now presenting to the board for discussion and approval.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, I'm
Well, if I
glad
could-
you're making decisions on your own.
I'm
and
not
saying-
making any decisions,
Yes.
this is a presentation to the board about the concept for your input.
I wish it would have come to us before engineering
could-
designed a
Not
plan.
everybody is totally motivated by strictly political things.
could-
We're working on
We
what's
know you
better.
are, Catherine,
We're
so-
working for we're working for what's best for the town right here. Why would we turn
Well,
down
that
space?
is-
And now Jim wants to talk, I'm gonna
that-
let you go.
Well, I started to, and then you were defending yourself to Jody. My point is very simple. Riverhead has demonstrated throughout the Suffolk County that we are in the forefront of open space and farmland preservation, without a doubt. We've sold 2 generations down the road to pay for it. And we're into it, we like it. We like to preserve our heritage, because we're building up so much commercially, we have to balance it. I get it. As far as a concept plan goes for this parcel, this is a good concept plan. I don't know if they'll be able to afford it, but it certainly looks good on paper if this county were gonna acquire this piece of property. That being said, I sat on open space for many years, and we did many projects together. And I sat down with Al Krupski, and there was other parcels along the Danowski Fish Market and the house next door to across from Maple Tree Deli. That was slated, but what we thought about that. We did it way back when Weeping Willow was torn down, and that was preserved, made in a little park there next to the, I mean, so there are little pocket things along the greenway coming in the Riverhead that were probably more conducive to public use. I'm not opposed to preserving any private, that particular piece of property I'm pretty familiar with, cause I actually used to go out with the girl that lives over near the
You don't wanna
Kilbuck.
hear
Yeah, we don't wanna hear that.
But
So you're duck blind now,
it's,
by the
it's,
way?
not- it's probably my duck blind,
I used to duck hunt down there, I will say that.
It's not the greatest piece of property, other than it's in the estuary, it's in the watershed. I mean, there's a lot of positive things about it, there's not a lot of use, but like Jody sort of pointed out, it's sort of like got itself into a preservation mode anyway, cause there's not much you can do with the property.
Right.
But, so as far as concept plan, I think this is a good plan. I certainly can endorse this plan if the county goes forward with this acquisition. I would just hope that when I sat on open space, the county did have a whole list of things that they thought were better. And a lot of it had to do with brownfields, a lot had to do with dilapidated buildings that could be removed and made open spaces. So I think there's probably other priority lists other than this one, but that's really a county decision, not mine. But
Right, but if
That's
the
all I'll
town,
say.
but the county is now asking us if we wanna put this to the top of the priority, essentially by saying, would you wanna, do we want them to buy this
And I could
first?
talk to the county officials directly, but I think what they're asking for is if they were to go forward with this acquisition, what kind of plan would Riverhead plan to do with it? I don't know whether they're looking for the town to, maybe that could be construed as an endorsement of the is that what you're saying? That could be misconstrued as an
Absolutely.
endorsement for the purchase? Well, then that conversation would have to be held separately.
And I have to say, you guys did a good job putting something together.
Thank you.
You worked on this together,
Yes, we did.
good work.
I will tell
Did you
for
pull out
clar-
some of those plants while you were there to save us some money?
Invasive
A
species.
lot of calamine lotion after you came out of there?
No, I didn't,
Why is it-
There's
honestly,
not a lot of poison ivy.
no,
No,
there really
poison
isn't,
ivy
it's
doesn't
crazy.
It's a lot of Phragmite, I know there's a lot of.
Yes.
It's Japanese knotweed and Phragmite that's in
It's
there.
terrible, I mean, it's just, and you have an elevated walkway, I mean,
You're not gonna see any, unless you take it down.
Just to touch on something Jody mentioned before about how this came to the forefront, I know about a year and a half ago, I would say, Mr. Sims, who's the property owner here, had asked for a meeting with myself and with Ray Coyne, the superintendent of parks, to see if it would be something that possibly the town would be interested in, purchasing for a park. And of course, knowing the town's finances, we, quickly shut that down because there was no money available to do that. He then suggested going to the county, that he would try going to Suffolk County, and asked if Riverhead would support, and that's where I had a little bit of the issue with, if it's gonna be a Suffolk County parkland, it's open up to anybody, and it's not really fair for Riverhead to hold the purse strings on this project if it's gonna be open to the county, to everybody from the county. If it were for a town park, it would be different in my mind, but I understand after being presented today, and I agree with Jim, this is a good concept plan. My concern was that we were gonna be held to this by April 1st of 2020, you have to complete phase one. That's concerning to me because this is a very expensive venture. And obviously, knowing our finances, we're not
Absolutely.
in the situation to do this right now. But the overall picture is still the preservation of open space. And I think looking at it from that standpoint, that I would tend to probably support this because of the preservation of open space. There is a parcel downtown on the west end of, right across from the Historical Society. There's a parcel of land there that the
At
county
Tushio's place,
owns.
yeah.
There's a parcel of land next door to it that's for sale.
Right.
I would really love to see the county be interested, because I think that's talking about where you're tying into downtown, that to me would be an ideal situation. But I understand the county.
I actually
Okay.
had reached out to, because I thought that,
Okay,
after that, and that was a parcel that actually the county, had access to, because they were in the rears, and they have now settled up with that, so the owner there has not, shown interest in wanting to sell that property off.
okay,
To the
okay, my
county.
understanding, the county took over it.
Yeah, but yeah,
took it
no,
over.
it went back on that,
Okay.
Yeah, no, they can't come up with a number. The
But
guy-
having said all that, the importance of open space to me is
Something we all
high.
like,
yeah.
It's something you gotta really think about and consider, and when the opportunity presents itself, I would be in favor of preserving this for open space. So in terms of getting back to the county, I could live with this, and I would be inclined to support it.
Concept plan.
Right,
I just think the
right.
location's just the
It
wrong,
is,
the wrong
I
use of
couldn't
county
agree with
money.
you,
I-
it's,
I like,
It is, and there are
I'm
several.
excited
awful
that
location,
I'm
but-
excited to get anything on the river, I know it has invasive species,
Well,
we'll
that's
deal with that.
protected anyway.
We'll deal with that
That'll
at
be,
some
that'll
other
be open
point.
space whether we buy it or not.
We'll
This-
deal with that later, but
And we
I'm
get
excited and I
two more
agree
workers
with
too
what,
when this opens
I agree
up.
with you, Tim.
yeah.
Right,
The-
Laura?
There you
The
go.
challenge is to develop this, the challenge is to develop
Good
this
pitch,
property
Jill.
by de facto,
Oh,
leave
yeah,
it as
right.
open space.
Right. If
The
nobody bought
challenge
this,
is
it'll
to
sit like
develop
that
this
for another 50
property,
years. There's no
I
doubt.
bet 3/4 of it would have to be left as open space,
Well, I'm
so,
not willing to bet on that.
okay, well, having been in the industry for 25 years and being a developer and working on properties that have environmentally significant and, you know, the DEC, especially in the wild scenic recreational rivers, where I think the uses are very limited. I'd actually like to look at the zoning on this property before the town board makes a decision to give a letter of recommendation to the county to buy this property, because I think de facto, it's already preserved forever with the wild scenic recreational rivers line and the zoning. So I don't think anything can be built on it, and the zoning board rejected it. So that's why he came to Tim and said, "Oh, why don't you buy it? I can't do anything with it."
I can't do anything.
And so he can't do anything with it. So why would the county spend?
I'm not going to surmise why the county is interested in purchasing the piece of property. I don't know, but they are, so I'm not going to say we're not interested. I don't, you know, in preserving open space, I think it would be foolish of us to say that we're not interested in preserving open space. I just
Right.
don't see the logic in it.
Well, if it's de facto open space because he can't build anything on it, because the zoning board shot him down, and because it's too environmentally significant, and because it's within the wild scenic recreational rivers, I don't see wasting money buying a piece that de facto you can't build on. And I support the county buying property downtown to create a park at the end of Osborne Avenue, across from the Henry Perkins, and across from the Suffolk County Historical Society that people can walk to and have access to. That's what I support.
I don't think one negates the other. You could certainly go back to the county and have them take a look at that parcel.
I'm gonna
I
go
don't
to the
think
next
one
meeting.
negates the other.
I'm gonna go to the next
Yeah, this
meeting
is
and ask
right
the
on the table
question
in
as to
June,
how
you
this
know,
came
this is
about.
gonna be coming up to county meetings, you know?
I don't know where it stands with that. I think that that this is coming before the county.
They have I mean, they've been tabling it out of our request, I mean, they want us to give our comments. They do have a, general meeting on Tuesday, just like we have a board meeting on Tuesday.
But this is at night, right?
It might actually be, I don't know off the top of my head,
10 or
but it's either
'Cause I
9:30 or
certainly would
4
like to go
p.m.
speak at the
And it's
meeting.
also Saturday, so I don't know, but, you know, they're waiting to see what you guys think.
So you let them know most of the team is on board with preserving open space. We're all on board.
Well, not necessarily this property, yes, we're all on board with preserving open space.
Yep.
But open space that's conducive and accessible to the residents, that it isn't gonna cost us $1 million to build. I would also like to know about the structures that are on the property, who's gonna be responsible for taking those structures down?
The county requires that the owner is responsible for taking those down prior to acquiring the property.
They didn't even order an appraisal of the property yet. It's a good
No,
question.
that's,
They may find it
it
because.
may not even, the whole
The
thing may be a
benefits- I think the
moot
cost is
point if
gonna
the cost
far
is
outweigh
too
the
much.
benefit.
I don't know how much money they have, I don't know what they have in mind over there, so that is,
God, if
in
it's just a
their-
little better piece of property.
Well, seeing the
realm.
I'm talking about the logistics of that property, just.
And seeing that he can't do anything on it, I'm sure he'll take anything that they offer.
And these guys are gonna plant some better plants in
About $1
there.
billion, I could.
So John, what,
Ten
if
more
we,
parcels besides that one,
would the,
right.
what is the county asking us at this point?
They wanted to see a concept plan, if we were interested in possibly, you know, preserving it if they buy it. Because usually their understanding, because they do this with a couple of other towns. They'll
Well, we
buy a
did it with the
parcel.
North Fork Preserve, I
Right,
mean.
they've done it
right.
with us, they've done it with other towns, they'll buy a parcel and then we'll you know, the town will maintain it and operate it forever. Because I don't think they sometimes have the resources to buy more county park land, that's a whole different thing. So if there's still some conversations you guys wanna have, I think they do another general meeting in 2 weeks later in December, if you don't wanna
So I would say then, I don't agree with the conceptual plan, I would strike the bathroom because it requires maintenance and a sanitary system and a water service line and everything else going to the building that will be an ongoing cost. So,
I don't think it was a permanent bathroom, was it?
Why would we strike,
it
we
was-
don't
it-
even have to do it,
Yeah.
why don't we leave it in there?
It's, if it's not in the plan, if 15 years
Right.
from now
It
you
could
wanted to
never
put
be
it, you
done.
could never do it.
I disagree
I
with
think
you.
it's foolish
that.
to
Always
strike
back.
it from a
But I'll ask the
conceptual
legislature
plan.
when I appear before them, if it's not in the
Legislator.
conceptual plan, can we do it later?
You most certainly can.
John,
All right,
I
so-
feel like we, I
Always
mean, Jim,
back.
you're on board, right? We are on board to move forward, John.
I like the
Are
plan,
you?
I'm not so sure I'm in favor of the acquisition.
Well, we don't even know if they're
Right.
gonna,
I think I can support both, as far as conceptual plan, I'm not.
So,
favor. Yeah.
so we are we in favor of supporting them even going through with the appraisal, or we just wanna tell them thanks but no thanks?
I'd like to wait and appear before the legislature and ask them whether or not everything that the bathroom has to be in the conceptual plan, and I'd like to see a copy of the contract that they would want us to sign if they were to buy it.
Well, Jody, I don't know if there's a standard contract for purchasing land, what they're asking for is if we are in favor of them going forward with getting, if we support the project, so, and if we support the project, then they're just gonna have to get an appraisal on the property, as they do with any property, and then once they get the appraisal, they have to go back to the owner to see if the owner is willing to sell the property at the offer that they have, and then if that happens, they would wanna know that we have some sort of conceptual plan and would be interested in working with them on it. So this is just a preliminary stage for them going through with the appraisal. So that is where we're at with that.
I'm in support of having them go forward with the appraisal.
So am I.
I am also.
And
That's
if
fine.
it's just going forward with the appraisal and not committing to the concept plan, then I would be supportive of it too, for them just to do the appraisal. But as far as,
So
the
we
town
can,
maintaining the parkland,
so we can be in
If
agreement.
everybody was on board, you're talking probably 2 years before anything happens.
Correct.
Even with a sale.
Correct.
if it's just for the appraisal and it says the town agrees, get an appraisal on it and find out what the cost is. And then if we find out that the county's gonna pay 11 million and they can buy the Sears building for 6 million and knock that down and create a park, then I'd rather see that.
Seriously, what is that?
This is what's on the table for us. I'm in support of
All right,
moving
well,
forward
this
with
is,
the
this is
appraisal.
preliminary
you.
anyway.
Right.
It really is baby steps at this point, and I'm not, I'll be honest with you, I like the concept plan, I don't think I think the particular acquisition is probably not the best interest for the people of Riverhead, because of the location
I agree.
and the topography and everything else that goes with it.
But that's a decision the county
But that's a
makes.
decision that we can
Yeah.
have with the county before they write a check, but the concept, to move forward with the planning and appraisal, I have no problem.
Yeah, but there's a cost associated with the appraisal, and it's probably, you know,
Not-
if
it's not our
we're
cost.
going to ask the
Not our
county,
cost.
I know, but if we're gonna ask the county to spend money on an appraisal, don't you think that it would
We need to be in
behoove us-
support of the project.
If I could just finish.
Go right ahead.
Do you think that it would behoove us not to give them a priority list of properties that we would like to see them look at before they look at this property?
Well, I think what we could do is we could ask our county legislator to come to one of our work sessions to explain the process of how the county, works with different towns to acquire and help support them in maintaining open space in their municipalities.
And I've spoken to several of the legislators about that, knowing that this was coming up. And normally what it would be is a letter from the town saying, hey, county, we're interested in you preserving this property, can you look at it? And then it goes back to the county, then the county reviews it, analyzes it, and then they come back to the town and they ask us if we'll create a park on it. That's
Alright,
how
so
it's
we
normally
don't,
done.
so then we don't need to have anybody, we understand the process. Okay, so let's move on to our code revision updates, please.
Oh, Lord.
Actually, I'm a no on the resolution for the appraisal, and I'll give my reasons why.
Oh, no,
don't
it's
want
never
Larry's
always.
Yeah.
So, oh wait, you don't have one. You okay? Yeah, I got that young intern, I gotta get him a job.
Hello.
These are not in the packet, cause there was not a,
Oh, Lord, have
How's it going?
What's up, Mr. Jody? Hello, Mr. Rogers, how are you?
I changed my title.
How's the family?
Hey, come on, be gentle.
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, be nice.
Busy. And there's no rush on this, this was just, to talk about,
Okay.
What is this here?
this time of year is kind of a strange time of year also for public hearings, as we discussed before. So this is really, we're looking at January, February for public hearings, but these are three things that just came out of code revision. I've asked Rich Downs to be here today. The blighted property code that we put in, this year, there's a couple things, Rich wanted to tweak, cause he was really the one who was working with it the most in code enforcement. And so we thought that maybe it was a good opportunity for Rich to come and also give an update to where we stand on that, but if we wanna just.
So you wanna start with the blighted property one first?
Yeah, cause Rich is here,
Okay, so that's the second one in the
the
packet.
second one on that. Come on back around to the first one, cause that's really the simplest one.
I'm sorry.
So this is just, we're just looking to tweak a few things that Rich is finding.
Yeah,
need
there,
to tweak, but you
Yeah.
have quite a few properties you're working on, right?
we got about 10 right now.
You said?
Yeah.
cool.
2 of those have come in for restoration agreements. The rest, have to be re-inspected and evaluated for compliance, which I don't think they have complied, so. We'll be
That's
looking.
good.
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad you're working on it.
And what this was, is we was just
fixing what
trying
needs
to
to be fixed.
align, the point system more with what the state requires, is what we tried to do here. So some of those buildings that have been boarded up for more than a year,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the state would probably deem that as a blighted situation because it's been over a year.
Okay,
Nobody's
there's no
done-
movement.
There's no movement.
Great.
So we're increasing the points on that, because originally I think it was 5 points.
Mhm.
So I think we increased that to, what did we
But
do?
boarding was 5 points, but now this is, if something's been boarded up for
For more than a year.
then
Right.
it's in the property maintenance code, is that being a potential
So
issue?
it was hard to address the properties that had been vacant a long time.
Correct.
With the current point system.
Correct.
The other one, which was added, cessation of normal construction, we had very few times, but sometimes it does happen where there's a permit that's issued, work starts, and then
It gets abandoned.
it gets abandoned and.
Michelangelo's, they
people-
just can't seem to get their facade up, but anyway.
Yeah.
And so, having the permit is important for not having a violation, but it doesn't obviate the violation that's ongoing if something's under construction, quote unquote, for years and years and years, so we thought that made sense in code revision. And the first one, A, is just adding a section within the property maintenance with that first, it was a little nebulous, if we
Yeah.
determine it to be a serious threat, well, you know, by pointing to this section of the property maintenance code which makes sense, if you're gonna walk into a house and you're in danger of it collapsing on you, like, that's blight, right?
Yeah, that's blight. In addition to being an unsafe structure, but yeah, that would be considered blight.
It's
And
just
there-
one more tool that you have to be
One
able
more
to.
tool, cause 108.1.5 of the state code was a number of, 11 different conditions that make a building unsafe. So just wanted to include that in.
So we're just adding two things and clarifying another thing.
I know we had talked about at one point about, sort of rodents and infestation, that doesn't go into wouldn't be in blighted, that would be a separate code that we currently do not have on the books, is that correct?
No, it's in the state code.
Okay,
Yeah, we do
But
have
not in
rodents
our-
not in the town.
We don't have a town.
We better get it in there.
cause I know in Huntington, when we had met with them, they said that they found that kind of useful. Is that something that we would consider here also?
I think we have something to that effect, but it's in the housing code, it doesn't relate to commercial buildings. We do have something that regulates infestation, but it's in the housing code.
I feel like that's something we should add.
Residential,
I've
not
heard
commercial.
some of the
Yeah.
commercial
Yeah.
buildings have animals in them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true, but
It might just be something to
Possible.
consider. Is everybody okay with these changes to the blighted property code?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you for staying on top of this and continuing to tweak it,
Yeah.
since it
No
is a new
problem.
code, I'm glad that you're.
you.
And I see behind this is the, code revision that I had requested for solar energy production facilities.
Right.
Well, is that the order that you, thank you, is that
Yeah,
the
so,
order you wanna go in?
Thank you,
Thank you, Rich.
Is
Yeah,
this-
since, Bob's here, this also came out of code revision,
Which I had requested.
There was something that was on there, we discussed it, we were looking at, Brookhaven's code, which, was put in place and has a more elaborate, section as far as, the question of clearing and permitting it only on lands that have been cleared or disturbed. I guess, one of the questions was, you know, on what date do you wanna set as far as the demarcation point for when disturbance must occur? Since we haven't enacted it yet, I don't know if this date becomes January 1, 2019.
Yeah.
As a first law, change. And then, of course, they have a number of different sections that talk about grading, excavation, which we already have in the code, and our code revision said why continue to duplicate and repeat the same verbiage, cause they're already on the books.
Well,
You know,
this-
We have restrictions on clearing, we have restrictions on importation, we have restrictions on excavation.
Right.
So it seemed like we were just, you know, fattening up the code book without the need to do so. So we
like
kept
that.
we kept it as brief as we could, and looking for input from you, whether you wanna put this forward.
This is exactly what I asked for, so I just didn't wanna see any acres and acres of trees being taken down to provide for solar panels, so I think it's a good code.
I know, Jeff, that you had some concern about the clearing, if we have the solar in the industrial, and that it would be cleared if it was industrial, and then why not to allow the solar, clearing for solar in something that's an industrial area?
Well,
Well,
because,
presently, solar is only permitted in industrial.
And that's to my point, so Jeff, do you wanna just, say some of the concerns that you had previously had about this?
Well, it's a concern is
Just a thought.
Yeah, it's a thought, that we're gonna allow clearing for all the other industrial permitted uses and special permit uses, and so we're not gonna allow it for this one use.
right, cause in industrial, it creates jobs, tax base, everything else, so that's why we would let them clear the trees for an industrial project, and the clearing would be limited based on our zoning code.
So that's just some food for thought for the rest of the board when they're looking at this, as to whether they would be in agreement. I agree with you, Jody, Jeff and I had discussed this previously, that was just one of the thoughts, so just to make everybody aware, of that.
I feel like if we have opportunity to not clear, I would like to keep trees.
Yep, no, I agree.
Alright,
So,
so
that's
is
why I
the
wanted-
concern
Everybody's
of the
okay?
board, they'd like to
I'm
go
good with
forward to a
this.
public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Sure,
we're
alright, and
talking
then
about
the
the
next question
second
is,
week in
are we looking,
January, right, Bob?
aim for the second week in
Right.
January, is that what we look to do?
It doesn't
That'd be
affect
great.
anything going on now as far as projects go,
Okay,
anyway.
so we'd look to get it on for the
Well, as long as I
next
think
town board
something's
meeting,
determined.
from just a standpoint, because that would,
In December or the January 3rd?
well, if we put it on for the second meeting in December, I think that from the standpoint of it being published and posted, it would fall within that 30-day window thereafter for calling of the public hearing, which would be that second meeting in January, which date I don't have in the top
I
of my
think
head
it's
right
like
now.
the 3rd, yeah.
But keep in mind too,
Well,
that-
not the
Yeah.
organizational meeting, the second meeting,
Okay,
We
okay?
thought the first meeting is too much organization.
yeah, it's the organizational meeting, I'm gonna say
I know
it might be
generally we
difficult.
try to keep it just to the organizational aspect as opposed to public hearings, so, we look at that second meeting in January,
Doing the effective date, 19, right?
correct?
Yeah, these are not
Then the other
finalized, even not for this packet.
that's
Just
fine.
Okay.
To discuss whether we're moving
good.
forward.
Jim, oh, you're okay, you said it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, yep.
And
All right.
looping back around to the first one, Karen worked on this, but it's really just about,
It's got Karen written all over it.
the order, there was something to this order in the.
Okay, because I said, why aren't the alphabetical?
Well, you're right, cause Karen noticed that there was things missing, and then if you read the top, it actually, it ordered them in districts from most restricted to least restricted, which was interesting because prior to the master plan change, industrial, for instance, industrial A used to be less intense, and then C was more intense, and then when the master plan happened, it almost flip-flopped, where C was less intense and A.
Louder.
So this most to the least didn't really make sense, and rather than reorder it alphabetically, it actually is more useful when you get to the book that they're in the order for which you encounter them within the chapter.
Okay.
So we just changed that. And aside, Diane had noticed that with all the public hearings, with the, posting and publishing, when we were posting and publishing code amendments, we try to put the whole code amendment in there, but we discussed that you could do a summary. Something like this would be a perfect test case for why a summary would be more appropriate, because if you look at this,
Yeah, right.
strike-throughs and underlines,
Good
nothing
lord.
is changing, it's being
Just
put in
reordering.
order, and
It's just reshuffling.
Yeah, but I wanna see what's
Okay.
being
But
taken out.
we're also adding
we are
And what's
also
being
two
adding.
zoning districts that were previously excluded,
In multifamily.
I think, but is,
So what,
I think so.
what I wanna say is, with this, when this gets, again, it's not for this upcoming meeting, but when we put this in the packet, we wanna also put the summary for the, you'll see
For the
what
posting.
what the posting is, and then that should be something that everyone's okay with. We'd also conversely talked about, for the post and publish, write it as is, even as messy it is, but then the adoption, maybe do the summary on the adoption. So it's something that, you could do it either way, I believe.
The first one?
I think this would be the first one we would, at the very least, I would recommend doing a summary of the adoption. But it's up to the board, it's up to legal.
yeah, I mean, we know legally you can do it, and I know that, you know, our officers expressed some reticence about it, but, you know, again, we're not policymakers, so.
So
at the end of the day-
why don't we write it up as a summary, and if the board is not comfortable with it, we can choose to not go with it. But at least it gives us the option in this case to decide what we would like to do.
Yeah, the resolution's gonna have both, cause it's gonna definitely have all
Yeah.
this text for the publishing portion, and then the
Post
summary,
and
and then we
post
can.
is just you're reconfiguring the classifications for the zoning code.
Right, yeah, there's nothing changing.
That,
Right.
plus we're taking out the
Right.
language from, you know, most
Most restrictive
restrictive to
to
least restrictive, so there's an
Yeah.
additional change there.
That's okay, I don't mind summarizing like what we're trying to do, it's summarizing the minutes from the town board meetings that I have a problem with.
No, this is just for the post and publish and the adoption,
Good.
because if you put all these words in twice in the paper,
Voluminous.
it's voluminous for no reason.
And you missed the point of what it is.
Yeah, you look at this and it's, what are we?
Right, there's really no.
Because I
we're
mean,
just
even when
saying
I looked at it, it
rather
was
than
kinda
make
hard at first to
It's 3
decipher what
pages of-
it was
That's
actually doing.
Well, it's actually 2 pages, but it's because of the deletions and the additions.
Well, it's a repeal and replace, because it just makes sense to do it
It's a
that way.
clarification more than
Good
anything.
work, thank you.
Alright,
So these will be in a future
Thank you.
packet, thank you.
Okay, very
What
good.
happened to the one with the stickers? What happened to that? That county thing, I showed it to me, and then,
We're just gonna do a
I
final
thought you
vote.
were gonna present it, or I could bring it up.
Oh, I'll
We can-
bring it.
whatever you choose.
Don't quite.
We are just going to take a 5-minute break, and then we will resume in 5 minutes.
Just when I got up here.
Sorry.
3 times.